Good morning, city of Denver. Another day dawns on our bustling society. It's important to take a moment to recognize all the unsung heroes who keep our world turning. From the early risers punching in at the factories to the dedicated professionals innovating in labs and boardrooms, each one of you plays a vital role in the tapestry of our society, and we are grateful for you. Your hard work, dedication, and perseverance are the driving force behind progress and prosperity. So rise and shine, you producers. It's great to be with you. It's the Jeff and Bill Show. My name's Jeff.
And I'm Bill Thorpe, and a shout out to all of my friends that are slowly waking up going, ow, my head hurts. Where are my pants, and why am I sleeping in this park? You're my people. Good morning to you. Hope you find your way home quickly.
Brilliant. I love it. I love it.
Those are my people.
Great to have you with us. We've got a jam-packed show in the 6 o'clock hour. We're going to be talking to Bradford Wilcox. He's the author of a new book called Get Married. It's all pushing back on kind of the elitists as well as the red pill influencers who are saying, you know what you should do with your life? Make money, live for yourself, stay single without kids. Nothing predicts happiness better than a good marriage. So he's going to dive into that. He's from the University of Virginia, sociologist there. Brad Wilcox will be joining us in just a second.
That's what my wife says. Nothing predicts happiness like you staying married to me.
There you go.
I love you, dear. That tease, yes.
I think our wives definitely know, too. We would be totally helpless without them.
Oh, yes.
Useless.
So many levels. Yes. Oh, so many levels. I would be completely useless. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, she completes me in so many ways and puts up with my crazy. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk to the author.
So 6 o'clock hour with Bradford Wilcox, Jorge Brauchler. You may know that name. Be joining us in the 7 o'clock hour.
We're talking DNA. It's like Roy Povich. Right. Who's the dad? Okay, no. It's about DNA.
George,
mix-ups.
You are not the father.
That's the best part of the show. That's all he ended up doing at the end. That's the only thing that really worked. That's all he did. So, yeah, George is going to be talking to us about a DNA specialist that decided maybe doing their job wasn't job number one.
So weird. Really?
I know. What were you doing? Playing Candy Crush all day? What was going on here? I just don't.
We'll get into all of that.
Questions.
This is a national story. Yeah. Colorado Bureau of Investigation finds DNA scientists manipulated data in hundreds of cases over decades.
Jeez.
Here in the state of Colorado. And like go testify and all that.
Yeah.
That's just.
I mean, it's layers of this. It gets worse and worse.
Then there was a Twitter spat.
Yes.
Big one over country girls and their accents. So funny. So you're definitely not going to want to miss this. This one even got my wife going yesterday when I played it for her. And conservative country girls in America came to the defense. It was basically beaten up, saying you girls are too manly, you're not feminine enough, and your Southern accents are terrible.
They're sweet.
And that came from like a European princess or something like that.
The thing is that, this is the thing is that country accents on women, I think very attractive. Men, not as much, depending on what it is. I mean, Jeff Foxworthy.
I hope there's not a lot of attraction.
Well, Jeff Foxworthy talks about that a lot. That if your doctor walks in with a country accent, you immediately dock 15 IQ points. He's like, "Ooh, that's not good." And he's like, "It's just what happens." And yeah, he understands. So, yeah.
And then I saw this article. I want to get into this. We'll get into this later in the show. Representative Matt Gaetz, a crusader against reckless spending.
Oh yeah.
Led the House in 2023 office expenses.
Are we surprised? Is anyone surprised?
Representative Matt Gaetz, who cited the federal government's, quote, reckless spending, unquote, as a justification for bringing a motion to vacate then Speaker Kevin McCarthy, led the House in 2023 office spending, thanks in part to new reimbursement rules that allowed the congressman to receive more than $40,000 for housing and meals. Gates received $31,000 in reimbursement for lodging and $10,800 for meals.
Yeah, and I'm betting over 60 grand for hair products. Just saying.
Well done,
Seen that
Bill.
guy? Thank you.
Well done. Let's go to Blake with the news. Good morning, Blake.
Morning.
Yeah, I think he spent a lot of money on crew. You guys know what crew is? You ever seen
Yes,
that stuff?
yes.
You know, it's like
the hair stuff?
$55. Yeah,
Yeah.
you throw it in your hair.
Oh, yeah.
And that stuff is so expensive. No, I agree.
He looks like Johnny Bravo, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
the big hair?
Yeah, it
No
looks like Johnny
doubt,
Bravo
man.
and Beavis.
Right.
That's what he looks like. Or
Well,
Butthead,
good
either one
morning,
of them.
guys. Yep, 35. Bill, I love it, man. 35, mostly clear in Denver, expecting highs in the low 60s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Great news, C470 in Santa Fe is open. Our top story.
Why are conservatives bad, Mommy? Because I thought we were supposed to conserve things. I couldn't reconcile it. Now I can.
Oh, yeah. Vice President Kamala Harris will be in
That'll
Denver
get you out of bed.
Good morning. Marking her fourth visit to Colorado since she took office 3 years ago. Reportedly, the campaign event is designed to mobilize Latino voters. Colorado is one of 4 states Harris is visiting following President Biden's State of the Union last week. Denver Mayor Mike Johnston addressed concerns about a new micro community in the Overland Park neighborhood. There's a new tiny home hood near Santa Fe, and people who are living outside near Colfax will arrive there today. It's gated and staffed 24 hours a day. He says the end goal is to get people into permanent housing.
Nope.
That's what
It
he
is not the
says.
end goal.
No, it
The
isn't.
end goal
Hey, by
is
the
to
way, those-
hide them over there in the corner so you don't
Yes.
see them.
Absolutely. You know, you drive by communities. I mean, they have blue, yellow houses. It's like, take your pick, man. It's pretty amazing. The designers are out. 2 buildings near East Quincy and East Smoky Hill Road were damaged Monday after a shootout. Police detained 2 people and found evidence of rifle and handgun rounds at the scene. Former President Trump said that there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad with Chinese-owned TikTok, but he predicted that banning it could help Meta, which owns Facebook, double in size. President Biden said he would sign a bill to ban the app if Congress were to pass it. U.S. national security officials have warned Biden that TikTok remains a security threat because it's owned by a China-based company. Trump says the U.S. needs to have better online safeguards.
We have to very much go into privacy and make sure that we are protecting the American people's privacy and data rights.
Lara Trump is the new RNC co-chair. She's trying to combat Attorney General Merrick Garland, who is once again pushing to allow people without IDs to vote.
Turn out the vote, protect the vote, and raise money. But I would argue that maybe the most important of those 3 is protecting the vote, election integrity. We have to ensure that when people go vote, they feel like their vote counts, that they are inspired to go vote. We can never allow what happened in 2020 and the questions surrounding that election to ever happen again.
Several states hold presidential nominating contests today in Georgia, Hawaii, Mississippi, and Washington. A former Boeing employee who raised concerns about production standards at the company has been found dead. John Barnett worked for Boeing for 32 years, giving evidence recently as a part of a whistleblower lawsuit against the company. The coroner in Charleston County, South Carolina, says he died Saturday from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. News is brought to you by Lara Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at LaraFireplacePatio.com. The Broncos signed Dolphins safety Brandon Jones. Nuggets win their 3rd straight. Last night over the Raptors, conference tournament week this week. CSU takes on San Jose State in Vegas at the Mountain West Conference tourney tomorrow. CU in the Pac-12 quarterfinals on Thursday. 31 in Lakewood, 33 in Parker, 35 in Denver. Jeff and Bill have opened the door on Terrific Tuesday as they continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, joining us on the show is Dr. Brad Wilcox. He's a sociologist at the University of Virginia. He's got a new book out, Get Married: Why Americans Must Defy the Elites, Forge Strong Families, and Save Civilization. Dr. Wilcox, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
You're welcome.
Jeff, it's great to be with you today.
Great. Well, give us an overview of the book. Obviously, they got the title, but you're trying to encourage people to embrace healthy marriages.
You know, Jeff, too often the media basically paint marriage and family as a path to misery and immiseration. Bloomberg had a piece that said women who stay single are getting richer. New York Times published a piece that said married motherhood in America is a game no one wins. And yet the truth is, Jeff, is that no group of Americans are less lonely, more financially secure, or happier than married dads and married moms. So the book is kind of just underlining the power of marriage in people's lives and also encouraging them to, you know, basically defy elite messaging that discounts and devalues the importance of marriage and family.
And this is elite messaging that happens on both sides, right? So I noticed this in the description of the book, liberal elites or red pill influencers. You're not just taking on one side. You're saying that to both sides, marriage is a really important way forward for our civilization.
Yeah, that's right. So we've had, I think, a pretty kind of negative take on marriage issuing from the left for, you know, really a long time now. But what's new, Jeff, is we're seeing a negative take issuing also from the red pill right, from people like Andrew Tate and Pearl Davis, who have some pretty big followings online. In fact, I gave a talk in Utah recently to a bunch of high school age kids. And when I was talking about the sort of the value of marriage, one of the teenage boys there in Utah, no less, was a Mormon, was kind of just asking about the Andrew Tate critique of marriage. Of course, their critique of marriage is that for men today, you know, marriage is, in Pearl Davis's words, actually a death sentence. And their idea is that, you know, most marriages end in divorce, leaving men eviscerated and miserable, even prone to suicide. What their critique doesn't appreciate is that, you know, today most marriages, Jeff, actually go the distance. We're seeing divorce come down 40% since 1980, sort of at the height of the divorce revolution. And so I think we can tell both women and men that marriage is a more secure path to not just obviously prosperity, but also kind of meaning, happiness, and, you know, so many opportunities both to receive and to give love to others.
We're talking with Dr. Brad Wilcox, a sociologist at the University of Virginia, about his new book, Get Married: Why Americans Must Defy the Elites, Forge Strong Families, and Save Civilization. You just mentioned a drop in divorce rate. Why is that happening?
Well, I think there are really two different reasons that explain why divorce has been coming down since 1980. The first is, I think that, you know, a lot of people who've kind of seen the effects of divorce in their own parents' lives or in the lives of other family members or friends are kind of, I think they're more committed to trying to make their own marriages work, and that's part of the story here. But it's also the case, too, that marriage is now more selective. That's sort of a fancy social science term for basically saying that more educated, more affluent, and also more religious Americans, Jeff, today are more likely to be putting a ring on it. And then less educated, less affluent, and you know, less religious and more progressive Americans today are less likely to be getting married and staying married as well. So there's just kind of a divide opening up both along class lines and cultural lines around marriage. And from my perspective, that's really tragic because marriage is a human institution. And when I look at the data, for instance, I find that both liberals and conservatives benefit from getting married, both financially and emotionally, for instance. And so I just wish we hadn't sort of seen like this recent trend in American life where particularly progressives are becoming more skeptical about the value of marriage.
I know in your research and your work, you point out the fact that the elites have traditionally embraced marriage, even if they don't always talk about embracing marriage. So they'll kind of, talk about the idea of being of being free in your own personal lives, live the way you want to live. But when the rubber hits the road, they oftentimes live very traditional lives.
Yeah, I talk about it in terms of a lot of our elites talk left and then walk right when it comes to marriage and family. We did a poll in 2019 in California, for instance, that showed that college-educated Californians were much more likely to embrace family diversity, kind of the idea that all family forms are equally valuable for kids. But when it came to kind of their own lives, they were much more likely to both get married in the first place and stay married in the second place compared to other Californians. So again, they're kind of publicly affirming family diversity, for people in general, but for their own lives, their own kids, they're kind of recognizing either explicitly or implicitly the best thing for them and their families is to get and stay married. And then I talk in the book too about Reed Hastings, who's the co-founder of Netflix, of course. And he talks in his autobiography about how he and his wife had some difficulties around his travel schedule for work, but they went to a counselor, they worked through these challenges, and they've managed to forge a strong and stable marriage since then for themselves and their two kids. And the irony, of course, if you kind of track Netflix, is there are lots of offerings on Netflix that aren't particularly family-friendly. There's also this famous movie called Marriage Story, which paints a very dark portrait of an elite couple moving from New York to LA and getting divorced over kind of really not very important, marital difficulties and challenges. So here you have, again, Reed Hastings kind of living a family-first, marriage-minded lifestyle in his own family, and yet kind of presiding over a streaming service that often is conveying messages and presenting stories that aren't especially marriage and family friendly.
Can you give a picture of what a healthy marriage looks like?
So in the book, I talked about the 5 C's, and they are communion, children, commitment, cash, and community. And in the interest of kind of just keeping this quick, I'll just touch on the sort of the first, the third, and the fifth. So when it comes to communion, what we see is the couples who maintain some kind of romantic spark, Jeff, in their lives, who kind of really make an effort to connect, outside of parenting and all of the sort of difficulties and challenges of family life, through especially regular date nights, are markedly happier, and it looks like they're less likely to get divorced and also more sexually satisfied. So that's sort of one piece, just kind of fostering that sense of communion in your marriage. It's particularly important for guys because we're often more likely to be less romantic kind of after the wedding day. When it comes to commitment, kind of just understanding and appreciating that we need to sort of honor our commitments to fidelity and not using the D word, the divorce word, when there are those ordinary challenges, disagreements, disappointments in marriage. And so on the fidelity front, it means obviously just kind of steering clear of attractive alternatives in the workplace or in the neighborhood, or especially nowadays online, that might in some way threaten your marriage, would be an example of kind of honoring that commitment. And then when it comes to the final C, community, what we see is that birds of a feather, Jeff, flock together. And so your friends have a lot to do with your success or your failure in marriage. If you surround yourself with people who are kind of living marriage-centered or family-centered lives and who honor and respect your marriage, you're more likely to be happily married and stably married. We know, for instance, that couples who attend church together are about 30 to 50% less likely to end up in divorce court. So just sort of having that, network of friends, if you're religious, often in some kind of church community. If you're not, there are other, obviously, friendship networks that honor, family life, and just being intentional about surrounding yourself with those kinds of people rather than the kinds of people who would, talk down about their spouse or in some other way kind of, be a corrosive force for your own marriage.
Jeff and Bill talking to Dr. Brad Wilcox, author of Get Married. Doctor, got a question for you about how we're now looking at marriage. You talked about the divorce rate is coming down from the 80s, and I have a theory on some of the reason why we had a high divorce rate and continue to, because we're bad at making the choices. We're picking bad partners at time, in my opinion. I've seen the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. We can look at our two presidential candidates right now. As a general population, choices aren't necessarily always our strong suit. You've seen the TikTok challenges. So can you address the idea that possibly we are being more discerning with who we're choosing as partners, or at least understanding that commitment on a different level, that if we're going to get married, this is more of a commitment than what we see in Hollywood and sometimes in politics?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think for people who are going ahead with marriage, and again, it's a more select group today, they're being more intentional about making a good choice, trying to find someone who's not just maybe attractive or financially successful or charming, but someone who has, real character and connects with them as a friend. And these are the kinds of things that will sustain them over the long term. So that's, I think that's the good news, is that people who are going ahead with marriage today are being more discerning about making a good choice for the long term.
Now, Doctor, I want to follow up a little bit on this based on those challenges you talked about. And I've told this to my kids. I said, listen, I understand the idea of living with someone, but when you are married, that's a different level of commitment, because you've actually said we will come together as a partnership. We're not just splitting rent and splitting utilities. It's a different level of commitment. Can you talk to me about some of the challenges and how you feel married couples can deal with some of those challenges that every couple deals with? How do you overcome them? How do you let them not tear this institution that is so important apart?
Well, actually, I think one of the things that you can do is what we see is the couples who don't cohabit prior to marriage are more likely to move into marriage successfully. And I think that's really for two reasons in part. So one is that if you have a lot of different relationships before you get married, you're more likely to end up unhappily married and divorced. And it's in part because you might be kind of adopting a spirit of critical comparison, where you're kind of comparing your spouse to other intimate partners, So that's, I think, one piece of advice to kind of bear in mind. The other thing about cohabitation is people often adopt a kind of a me first mindset in cohabiting relationships, which they then bring into their marriage. So one example is separate versus shared checking accounts. And we see that folks who cohabit often establish a habit of keeping separate accounts, which they bring into their marriage. And that's actually a bad idea, because couples who adopt a more before me approach to money, as with many other things, are more likely to be flourishing. But again, to your question, in terms of how do you kind of forge a strong marriage, given that we're all flawed in important ways, and there are going to be points of friction between you and your spouse, I think one important kind of mindset is, again, to have this we before me mentality, where you're trying to serve your spouse, to serve any kids that you have, rather than kind of just pursuing your own narrow short-term self-interest. And that extends to things like how you handle money, but also how you handle your time and many other things in marriage. I think a second thing that's important to stress is sort of how you handle conflict. And conflict is, inevitable. It's sort of part of the fabric of any marriage. And so sort of steering clear of saying things and doing things which would kind of basically attack the character of your spouse, saying things like you always or you never, kind of issuing these kind of more total comments. Watching the tone in terms of how you address, concerns and disagreements, trying to keep it, measured and calm is really helpful as well. So just in terms of how you approach conflict, being very discreet about, the discrete issue that's a cause for concern, not in any way kind of signaling disrespect, if you can avoid doing that in the middle of an argument, and just trying to kind of also do kind of the praise sandwich, where you might begin with some praise before moving to your concern with your spouse. It's just kind of communication tactics that can help minimize the kind of the negative effects that can flow from the conflict that is part and parcel of married life.
Yeah, I tell my kids all the time, deal with the issue, not the person. If you're going to have an argument,
Exactly.
deal with the issue. Jeff and Bill talking with Dr. Bradford Wilcox, author of Get Married. One of the biggest things that I loved hearing right there, and then I'll have Jeff take the floor, is early on in my high school career, had a teacher that shared wisdom that has resonated with me, and I hear it in a different form in what you were saying. And his advice was, like is because, but love is in spite of. You like someone because of the commonalities, but you love someone in spite of your differences. If you can't overcome those differences, the love isn't going to last. It's simply not going to endure.
Right. And one thing I think is important to note here is I talk in the book about what I call the soulmate myth. And it's kind of this idea that marriage is just about a feeling. It's about kind of that intense romantic or emotional or erotic connection that you have with, your partner, often kind of in the more initial phase of the relationship or in the marriage. And people don't realize that, no, love is not a feeling. It's a decision. It's a decision to kind of prioritize the good of the other. And then when you've got kids, the goods of the others. So just having that kind of appreciation that love is, again, not about a feeling, which can obviously ebb and flow from day to day or from month to month, from year to year, but just sort of recognizing you've made a commitment to love someone else and then to love any kids that you guys have together. And that's about kind of advancing their welfare and not paying too much attention to how your feelings might ebb and flow over any given day, month, or year.
Talking with Dr. Brad Wilcox of the University of Virginia, sociologist there and author of the book, Get Married. You use a very important line in the title of your book, the subtitle, Save Civilization. Why is getting married going to save civilization?
Well, Jeff, I've been teaching kind of almost literally in the shadow of Thomas Jefferson at the University of Virginia for the last 30 years. And he's justly famous for talking about the importance of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And yet what we're seeing in this country, unfortunately today, when it comes to life, is deaths of despair, deaths related to suicide, alcohol, drug use, spiraling upwards in recent years. Hundreds of thousands of Americans are now dying these deaths of despair. When it comes to liberty, we're seeing that the American dream is out of reach for too many poor kids across the country. And then when it comes to happiness, the pursuit of happiness, we're seeing happiness rates drop to record lows in recent years. And when you look at the research around each of these three core Jeffersonian kind of ideals, what you see is that oftentimes it's marriage and family that are kind of the drivers of these three different goods. And so, for instance, when it comes to deaths of despair, there's recent research from Gallup telling us that kind of the top factor in driving deaths of despair in regions across the U.S. is the retreat from marriage. And then when you look at this decline in happiness in American life from a recent study at the University of Chicago, what you find, again, is that the number one factor here is that fewer Americans are getting married, especially. So the point I'm getting at is that kind of the state of our union, the state of our civilization is really predicated on the state of our unions. And right now, we're not doing well on basically helping Americans find a pathway towards marriage. And that has a big impact on our civilization.
That is an amazing line. The state of our union is predicated on the state of our unions. Wow. Dr. Brad Wilcox, University of Virginia, sociologist, author of the book, Get Married. I've got it linked at my Twitter account.
It's not really fair being that smart this early in the morning. It's not. I don't know what you do. That's not fair.
He is brilliant. To
really
your
cool.
point,
Wow.
Bill, I've followed Dr. Wilcox's career for decades now. He is absolutely one of the most brilliant people out there. He helped formulate the idea, too, of the success sequence. We don't have time to get into it. But if you get at least a high school education, work full-time, and marry before having children among millennials who followed that sequence, 97% are not poor when they reach adulthood.
It makes sense. I was talking to someone on the text message that I firmly believe that marriage is not right for everybody, but it is part of the keystone foundation of a solid society.
That's right.
We need to build on top of it. I'm not saying everyone should get married, but it does work when you do it right. And I really appreciate the doctor. It's a fantastic way of outlining it. I mean, just wow. How can we be this smart in the morning? It's not because of what I did. Not at all.
Go to twitter.com/Jeff Hunt. It's pinned right there at the top. You can get his book, buy it. And look, we'll talk about this when we come back. My wife and I are very open about this. We spent about a year in counseling after I worked on a major presidential campaign, because I was working 7 days a week and she was young and we had young children, and I was not at home, and it took a year of work to save our marriage. And that was now 12 years ago. And I'm very glad that we were able to do that and make that a priority. But that was it took commitment.
And it's hard because you have to admit mistakes,
Right.
faults, flaws. But the most important part is that you want to be better.
Yes.
That's the important part of that
100%.
conversation.
100%.
Tons of respect for you.
Well, do you have a high school student considering their college plans? Are they ready to discover more about their gifts and talents? Do you hope to see them become part of the next generation of Christian leaders? Your student is invited to Colorado Christian University's Discovery Preview. This week-long event is completely free. Discovery Preview is designed for students who desire to see God's purpose and calling in their lives. Students are immersed in the community, culture, and mission of CCU. Workshops focused on calling, career, and Christ-centered leadership help them explore their unique strengths and potential career options. Their Christ-centered community takes students on a Colorado adventure to experience the beauty of the Rocky Mountains. Eligible students can also qualify for a $1,250 annual scholarship for attending. Don't miss Discovery Preview this summer, June 17th through 21st. The event is designed for seniors and juniors in high school. And again, it's absolutely free. To learn more, go to ccu.edu/discovery. That's ccu.edu/discovery. And thank you to CCU for sponsoring the Jeff and Bill Show. We sure appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
All right, we'll get to your calls and texts next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Just wrapped up a great conversation with Dr. Brad Wilcox. You can listen to it on our podcast or YouTube channel if you go to 710knus.com. He's a sociologist with the University of Virginia, wrote a book, Get Married, Why Americans Must Defy the Elites, Forge Strong Families, and Save Civilization. Why marriage is so important. It was fascinating. Great, brilliant discussion. Go listen to it there. We're going to get to Ken here in just a second. Let's check in with Blake, see about the news he's working on. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff. That was great with the marriage. I truly believe in the joint bank accounts. That is one of the big secrets, no doubt. The vice president, Kamala Harris, she'll be in Denver today after she eats lunch with Billy. No, I'm just joking. So we'll talk about that. And then Fort Collins police continue to search for the murder suspect wanted for that gang-related killing near downtown. He's considered armed and dangerous. That and much more coming up at the top of the hour. Back to you.
Great.
Hey,
Thanks
thank
so
you.
much, Blake. We'll look forward to that news. Let's go to Ken in Thornton. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Ken.
Morning.
Morning. Yeah, I had 3 brief points. If I could
Please
elaborate, not even elaborate, but just state them. First is, like Pearl Davis says, women after divorce, when they end up raising kids versus if the man raises them, the stats are the man, when he raises the kids as a single parent, does almost as well as when they're married. But when a woman ends up raising the kids, they have all of these destructive things go on: higher suicides, drug problems, jails, violence, death, gangs, all that. The second point is I think a lot of this is basically this marriage dilemma is an outgrowth of feminism. And in, say, the 70s, when there was a big surge in that area, it was sort of the beginning of all these troubles. And they thought, let's change it up. They didn't really, in my book, change much up, but the misery index. And because it's about me, me, me. And when you have that selfishness, I don't think you have as good of marriages on both parts, but more so with women. And thirdly, I've been down in Latin America where their marriages, 90% of them last and work. And about half of the ones that don't work, it's because the guy's into drugs, booze, or smoking, and he's pulling too much money away from the money to raise the family. So I pretty much agree with everything this guy Wilcox said. But in our culture, he said, well, we need to pick better mates. Well, the bottom line is about half of the mating pool out there, because of our culture as it is, and I'm trying to be polite and respectful, but I guess the thing is what, if say half of the people are inadequate partners, then half of them are bad decisions. And so how do you have a good marriage from bad decisions?
got to go to church. No, Ken, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for the call. Ken's line's going to be open 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. I don't agree that feminism is tied to selfishness.
Yeah.
That was the one part on that where
I don't either. That
look,
was a difficult one for
and
me.
here's why I'm sensitive to it. My mother was an independent entrepreneurial woman and married and took care of the kids and all that stuff, but also worked as well and absolutely faced sexism. There's this like weird kind of revisionism history that's being done right now that like feminism was all just about the breakdown of the family, and they couldn't vote in this country at one point. Like,
the thing that I look at is the issue I had there with the conversation about feminism being equated with selfishness was the opposite, being so when the woman was told they couldn't have a job, had to stay home, had to have food ready, and was only serviceable as a to have kids and to raise them, that is preferable. I mean, I just look at that and go, how come when a woman says, I don't want to do that, how come that's viewed as selfish? If guys were put into that kind of a box, we would be so angry. If they said, the only thing that a guy is good for is doing this, and it's not all the jobs that we do, it is only this one job, and you can pick whatever job it is and say, that's it. It's the only thing guys can do. Everybody else should be doing other stuff. And you're like, wait, hang on a sec. That's the part. And I understand what he's saying about the breakdown. I disagree with him. I'd love to see the numbers on the male versus female raising of children. But I think many times, and you and I have talked about this off air, that it is very difficult, regardless if you are male or female, to be a single parent.
Yes.
It is incredibly
100%.
difficult for so many, many reasons. Some of them being financial, some of them just being education and time, and some of them being that idea of going it alone and how tough that is, and how that can fundamentally at times change the relationship with the child, sometimes for the good and sometimes for the bad. And there are layers to how that can go. There's just so much challenge involved in being a single parent.
To his point about finding a good mate, you're not going to find them in a bar or a club.
No.
I mean,
depends.
I
know people have gotten lucky.
I know. It's like winning the lottery.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Go to church. Just go to church.
Well,
You're going to find good people in church.
The thing for me is that I just say that get out there and go do things that you like to do, because you will encounter people that have the same interests.
Yeah, hiking,
and so
rafting,
so go and do that.
skiing.
Yeah, find those commonalities, because that's where the romance starts. You never start a romance with someone that is so diametrically opposed to you that you don't share something in common. That's where the romance starts. Whatever it is, find it.
What I appreciate about Dr. Brad Wilcox's book, and we just talked with him, he's got a new book out called Get Married, Why Americans Must Defy the Elites, Forge Strong Families, and Save Civilization, was going after the red pill influencers. And I did this at a talk at CCU too, with a bunch of young men around. If you're older, you're not on Instagram and TikTok, you're not seeing this as much as younger men are right now, but there is a whole push from the red pill side that is date 15 women a week, drive a Lamborghini, fly around in private jets. It's a bizarre pushback against leftism in culture, and in doing so is embracing this kind of personal libertarianism, which is really just consumerism, even as it relates to a spouse. And Brad is arguing that the traditional social conservative viewpoint on marriage and creating a strong, healthy marriage and building a family, whether you're liberal or socially libertarian on the right, you need to pursue that traditional, more conservative way. We got a lot of calls coming in. We're going to get to those in just a second, as well as your text messages. Let us know what you thought about that. Again, the book, Get Married, Why Americans Must Defy the Elites, Forge Strong Families, and Save Civilization by Dr. Brad Wilcox. It's pinned at the top of my Twitter account, twitter.com/Jeff Hunt, if you want to purchase it there. We'll get to your calls and texts in just a second. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. Donald Trump is seeking to derail the first of his criminal trials just weeks before it's scheduled to get underway. Trump faces 34 counts related to allegations he paid hush money to a porn star ahead of the 2016 presidential election. But his legal team argues the trial should be delayed until the Supreme Court makes a call on whether he's immune from prosecution for his conduct while president. His legal team hopes that would mean evidence from statements provided while he was in office are ineligible, weakening the prosecution's case. Nearly 3/4 of US teens say they feel happy or peaceful when they don't have their phones with them. In New York, Haley Bianco has more on the findings.
According to a new survey from the Pew Research Center, despite the positive associations with going phone-free, most teens have not limited their phone or social media use. The survey comes as policymakers and children's advocates are growing increasingly concerned with teens' relationships with their phones and social media. Last fall, dozens of states, including California and New York, sued Instagram and Facebook owner Meta for harming young people and contributing to the youth mental health crisis by designing features that addict children.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
All right, let's go to Jacqueline in Sydney, Nebraska. Jacqueline, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, fellas. Yeah, I'm an older woman, and I have to tell you, dating, and I'm a widow, dating isn't easy.
I agree.
Was just absolutely astonished at how many along the front range of Colorado and Wyoming, how many single older men there are. There must be hundreds of thousands of them. These dating sites are so full of these guys that I don't think they know what they're getting into. Are they real? Are they not? How many of them have artificial girlfriends, AI girlfriends? I was curious because a friend of mine met a really nice guy on a dating site. And her husband passed away too. She was a widow, and she's been happy now for about 6 years. And she's in her 70s. Him and her both were in their 70s. But everything has changed so much since I was young, because women can walk now so easy. They don't have to stick it out. They don't have to stay in a relationship. And I wonder how many men out there actually vote for the abortion. I mean, 18, 19, 21 years of child support, that's a long time. And, you know, I don't know any women, no women that support that. So it has to be a lot on the man's side.
Interesting. Jacqueline, I appreciate the call. Thanks so
That's
much.
interesting.
Jacqueline's from Sydney, Nebraska. Her line's going to be open. We got to get to You Choose the News, Bill.
Yes, it is that time of the morning where we get to play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. And, of course, we are joined from the newsroom by Blake Olson, who has made the unfortunate decision to get in on this funness. All righty. Here's the deal. We have scoured the interwebs this morning for mere moments to find really dumb stories about us humans, giving it ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game. Why? Well, because they keep paying us to do it. Nobody in charge knows we're doing it, and this is just a lot of fun. So, shh, secret. All righty. Gentlemen, here are your choices this morning. Headline number 1, government goes after farmers. Headline number 2, does this count as green energy? Headline number 3, because drunk people are easier to fool. And headline number 4, decaf coffee can kill you. All right,
let's
Jeff.
go with, does this count as green energy? I can imagine shamrock celebrations.
Does this count as green energy? We are traveling to Beijing, China for this one. Recently, it just discovered that the Chinese nuclear power plants are doing a wonderful job at producing energy and waste. Problem is, China's dumping the wastewater into their water. Their wastewater contains 9 times the level of tritium. That was the amount that is expected that you find in Japan's crippled Fukushima complex. Once a year, they have to dump tritium heavy water out of the Fukushima complex in order to clean it so that the radiation doesn't build up. China is dumping wastewater that contains 9 times the amount of the same tritium directly into, their own drinking water, because what could go wrong? Yeah, and green energy, because, of course, the citizens are going to glow green. You know how it is. You're going to be able to see everybody in the dark. All righty, Jeff, second choice. Government goes after farmers because drunk people are easier to fool, or decaf coffee can kill you.
I like the farmers. Let's go with them.
Government going after farmers. Traveling to Olympia, Washington for this Dateline. Washington's 60-day legislative session wrapped up last week. Lawmakers passed nearly 400 bills. Only 1 or 2 of them are worth a damn. You know how this works.
That's exactly right.
One of the most interesting ones are things like banning police from hog tying people in their custody and a ban on octopus farming. Yes, they are banning the octopus farms, which, I had no idea that in the Beatles song about an octopus garden, that actually is a thing. And so, that you can no longer be an octopus farmer in Olympia. And I just personally think that using the term farm for that, no, you're an octopus gardener. Because, you can't go out there and go, oh, man, I spent a long day in the octopus fields today.
Feed octopus in an octopus farm?
How do you call yourself a real farmer? You're a farmer. You know what it takes to be a farmer.
I think you might be an octopus rancher.
Octopus. No, you're an octopus gardener. That's the easiest thing. And even rancher doesn't even, it is hard with cattle to be a rancher. Octopi, not so much. Not so much. You can keep them in jars. It's not a difficult thing. Okay, people. All right. Blake Olson, our final choice this morning, because drunk people are easier to fool, or decaf coffee can kill you.
Billy, I like your drunk stories.
Thank you, sir. Now, this is because drunk people are easier to fool. Up in Canada, yes, they like it when we say it that way. It's America's hat. They have decided they are not going to double their beer tax. Now, early this month, it was supposed to go from 2% to almost 4.7%. And of course, the lawmakers leapt into action and said, no, it's okay. You can continue to imbibe all of the alcohol and get as drunk as you need to up here in Canada because we are not going to make you pay more for it. I think that's probably a smart thing for the politicians because nobody really wants to argue with the people when they're very drunk and angry about their beer. We saw what happened here in this country with the tea. But I'm just saying that drunk people, much easier to fool. So encourage the drinking. I think that's also the political answer on this one. All right. That is it. That is the end of today's You Choose the News. We'll talk to Blake Olson from the newsroom in just a mere moment. He is prepping all the real news for you. And I got to remind you, this You Choose the News is not sponsored by Roll 'em Out Shelves. They are a wonderful company. Book your free in-home estimate today. Organize your kitchen or bath. You can see their work at rollemoutshelves.com. They will make everything easier inside of your kitchen. Just do not tell them about what we did here. They'll charge you more. KNUS, they'll love you. You say You Choose the News and bad things will happen. You've been warned.
We're getting new Roll 'em Out Shelves next week.
Hey, you got to tell me about the experience. They're great. They did such a great job.
They seem like wonderful people.
Yeah, they are.
So in the 7 o'clock hour, Jorge Brauchler is joining us to dive into this DNA scandal happening.
Yes.
Is he the father?
Is he? Maury wants to know.
More. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
That'll get you fired up. Good morning, Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City. This is the Jeff and Bill Show. It's
Morning.
a pleasure to be with you. Thanks so much for tuning in. We are covering a whole lot today from Dr. Brad Wilcox joining us in the 6 o'clock hour. You can listen to that on the podcast about his new book, Get Married, Why Americans Must Defy the Elites, Forge Strong Families, and Save Civilization. We're going to be talking to George Brauchler here in just a second about this DNA scandal that's taking place here in Colorado. And then we're going to get into everything from federal surveillance of banking accounts to Twitter fights between country girls on social media. Oh, my goodness. To progressive groups saying that AIPAC should pull its funding from Democrats. Democrats shouldn't accept that.
Yeah, because one thing Democrats don't like is free money.
Right.
That's the one thing they reject.
Exactly. I read that and I was like, yes, please give it all to the Republicans.
Yeah, exactly.
So a whole lot to cover. We want you to call in. We want you to text in. We want to hear your thoughts. This is a conversation show. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. We're going to get to George Brauchler in just a second, but first, the Blake Olson news.
Okay, I'll apologize in advance. This is 7:01. It used to be 6:01. So if we get the gremlins,
I love it.
All right, so here we go. Let's see what happens. 34 and clear in Denver, expecting highs in the 60s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Vice President Kamala Harris will be in Denver today, marking her 4th visit to Colorado since she took office in 2021. Her office hasn't released many details regarding the visit. It's reportedly a campaign event to mobilize Latino voters. A family is displaced and one person is in the hospital following a house explosion in Denver. It happened Monday afternoon in the area of South Osceola Street and West Morrison Road. And first responders found the home on fire when they arrived. Firefighters quickly extinguished the flames, and a corroded gas line was later found to be the cause of the explosion. Fort Collins police searching for a murder suspect wanted for what they're calling a gang-related killing. A warrant has been issued for the arrest of 32-year-old Adrian Pacheco, who's accused of first-degree murder. The search comes after a man was shot to death in a Fort Collins apartment over the weekend. Pacheco's mugshot has been released to the public. He's considered armed and dangerous. If you see him, call 911 and do not approach him. Senators grilling the head of the FBI over a surge of illegal immigration and whether that poses a security concern. Oklahoma Republican James Langford is worried about so-called special interest aliens.
A non-U.S. person who, based on analysis of travel patterns, potentially poses a national security risk.
He says, unlike people on the FBI's terror watch list, there are no numbers on how many special interest aliens are being caught. FBI Director Christopher Wray told the Senate Intelligence Committee that he shares this concern over lapses in security. Bibi and Netanyahu updating the United States on Israel Monday. They're ready to take care of business in Rafah. The red line has been drawn.
Look, it's either Israel or Hamas. There's no middle way. I mean, we have to have that victory. We can't have 3/4 of a victory. We can't have 2/3 of a victory, because Hamas will reconstitute itself with these 4 battalions in Rafah, reconquer the Gaza Strip, and do the October 7th massacre over and over and over again. That's a red line. We can't let Hamas survive.
All right, in the toy department, the Broncos set to sign Dolphin safety Brandon Jones. Nuggets win their 3rd straight. They beat the Raptors 125-119. Conference tournament this week.
And there he goes. 7:04.
There he goes. What is that? I don't know what happens. In here, I'm going to bring him down, and I'm going to talk to him off the air, and he'll probably be back. Hang on here.
We'll get him back in just a second. We're going to get to George Brauchler here. Colorado Bureau of Investigation finds DNA scientist manipulated data in hundreds of cases over decades. This from CNN. A now former forensic scientist with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation manipulated or omitted DNA tests results in hundreds of cases. We'll get back to this story in just a second. Blake, do we get you back, my friend?
Yeah, we got.
All right.
I thought I was going to be able to get through it, but we have temperatures to give you.
All right, please. Yeah, those
right.
are. It's really important this week.
Those are really important, no doubt. It'll change tomorrow. 30 in Arvada, 31 in Littleton, 34 in Denver. And Jeff and Bill continue. Sorry for the interruption. Here we go. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Finds DNA scientist here in Colorado manipulated data in hundreds of cases over decades. A former forensic scientist with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation manipulated or admitted DNA test results in hundreds of cases, an internal affairs investigation found, which prompted a full review of her work during her nearly 30-year career at the agency. I've got so many questions. First of all, how dare you? And then how did this go along for so long? So I thought to myself, who best to help us understand these legal issues in the state than probably one of the greatest attorneys out there? George Brauchler joins us on the line. George, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you.
Yeah, buddy, thanks for having me on. And once again, I want to say I'm really pissed off that people have already forgotten that I had a radio show there just as recently as 6 weeks ago. I don't know what you've done, but keep it up, I guess, and screw you.
It requires a lot of nudity, but people have moved on. So,
Yes, it's true.
It's what you got to do for the
Thank
business.
You for keeping it on the radio.
So, George, what is going on here with this person? Yvonne Woods, huh?
Yeah, Missy Woods. She was the gold standard, the go-to person for DNA for decades here in the state of Colorado, in large part because CBI, the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, their lab kind of had a monopoly for many, many years on DNA testing. Now, Mitch Morrissey, the great former DA of Denver, helped put together a lab in Denver that allowed them to not go to CBI. The 18th Judicial District put together a lab. We launched that about 4 or 5 years ago in an attempt to get into a position to do that. But really, every other DNA test that was done by law enforcement across the state had to run through Missy Woods and that DNA lab. I noticed that she started the year. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. My very first jury trial will be 30 years ago this July. That's when she started doing DNA testing for CBI. So when you talk about the scope and the number of cases that are affected by this, they have gone back to 2008. They said they're going to review everything from 94 to 2008, but their real concern about her data manipulation was from 2008 to 2023, 652 cases across the state of Colorado. And as you could imagine, if there's DNA involved, it's probably not going to be a shoplifting.
Right.
Probably not going to be a property crime. It's probably going to be the worst of the worst crimes you can imagine.
George, do we have innocent people in prisons in Colorado because of this, because of her malfeasance?
We don't know yet, but that is the nightmare scenario for the justice system. But I tell you, as a prosecutor, that is, you dread somebody guilty being acquitted, right? Like, they're guilty, but you just don't have the A game or the evidence to do it. You dread that. More than that, you are horrified at the prospect that you have stripped away the freedom, good name, and treasure of a person who didn't deserve it because they weren't guilty. I think the jury's still out on that. If you look at the CBI report on this, and Chris Schaefer, longtime law enforcement guy, worked his way up through the ranks at CSP to become the head of the bureau, launched a pretty comprehensive investigation. He does not give an indication in the initial findings that were released that they think that's what happened. I mean, one of the things that they say is that the things that they're looking at, I'm going to read 3 things from this report. CBA's DNA forensics team identified the following types of manipulation. Right there, when you talk about data manipulation, you have to get a little puckered there, but here are the 3 things. Deleted and altered data that concealed Woods' tampering with controls, deleted data that concealed Woods' failure to troubleshoot issues within the process, and failed to provide thorough documentation in the case record related to certain tests performed. Now, those sound horrible, but none of those, it sounds like, and the rest of the report suggests this too, none of those things sound like she changed results or she changed outcomes to match DNA with certain profiles. That's where you get into the wrong guy got convicted. So I hope that's true, but these things they're not insignificant or less damning, because these are the kinds of things that a defense attorney woulda, coulda, shoulda been armed with in order to cross-examine her to test her credibility and the credibility of the testing and the DNA. Those things are their own problems for all these cases. If you're a defense attorney out there and you've had somebody convicted by Missy Wood's DNA evidence, you're probably getting ready to file something if you haven't already with the court. Some of the other things to remember, though, are 652 cases is not 652 trials. There are people that pleaded guilty based upon the strength of the case against them. That's a little problematic, too, because you think to yourself, well, I wouldn't plead guilty to something if I didn't do anything wrong. We know that that's not always the case. Sometimes, and that's, you're worried about that as a prosecutor too. Sometimes people come in and your attorney says, dude, they're going to get you. On the evidence they have, they're going to get you. You're going to go to prison for 50 years. You should plead guilty to 25 years. And so you worry about those cases as well. This can of worms is bigger and deeper than we can really gauge right now.
Yeah, the Colorado Department of Public Safety has requested almost $7.5 million from the state government to review and retest DNA samples after, quote, anomalies in the forensic testing of one scientist were discovered. They are also expecting this to require 72,000 hours to their offices to address the situation. I mean, this is really, really big review of 30 years of cases. What did she get wrong? Was this willful, you think?
Yes. In fact, the findings by CBI say that it looks like all of this was beyond willful. It was intentional conduct. You know, one other thing, though, I'm glad you brought up the taxpayer cost on the CBI end, but that's a little fake because it underestimates the impact in this way. Public defenders' offices are going to have to gin up a ton of appeals, motions, post-conviction type stuff on this, and DA's offices who are locally funded, and you won't get that same measure out of state tax dollars. DA's offices are going to have to fend off challenges and do their own internal reviews on all of their cases. Obviously, it's bigger for the offices that are in the metro area because that's where most of your DNA-related type big crimes occur. But I'm thinking about one that got ginned up in resolved under Kellner, my successor, but a guy named Alex Ewing. This is a guy who was a triple murderer, blunt force murderer. And then he went to Jeffco, murdered someone else, and then fled to Utah, Nevada, where he sat in prison for trying to blunt force murder some other people and was on the verge of parole when his DNA profile popped and they brought him back here to convict him. That case just resolved within the last 2 years at trial, and the DNA stuff factored pretty big in that. That's just one case. The amount of time and effort it'll take to go back into those things and try to make sure that whatever we have isn't enough to change the outcome or warrant a new trial. And think about the victims. Think about the victims of all of these cases who are now thinking, oh my God, is the person who killed or raped the person that, my loved one, are they going to stay in prison? Or are they the person who killed and raped my loved one? The kind of angst, the ripple effects from this behavior are wide. We just can't appreciate it yet.
How do you prevent this from happening in the future?
That's such a good question. You have to have, I think, additional supervision within the lab, additional checks. You have to decentralize some of the authority in terms of the testing of equipment and the sampling and the auditing and all that stuff that takes place. That's going to, and I think CBI has said, look, we've already done that. Since we discovered this, we've already done it. I've got my own questions about what CBI did, by the way. They discovered this back in September. This report got released 5 months later. Okay, but they didn't actually suspend Woods for a month, and then she retired. She was allowed to retire a month later. How did all of that happen? Why did that happen? There's an ongoing criminal investigation as well.
Right.
And if she's testified a jillion times. If she's determined to have perjured herself, she could be looking at a considerable period of time in prison. That's aside from the fact that if she got any of this testing wrong because of this deliberate corner cutting, and that getting it wrong resulted in an innocent person being incarcerated, she could be facing decades in prison.
Now, George, how did this go on for so long? The thing that I'm having a problem with is the quality control issues. And again, this is somewhat of a function of how government works, the lack of post audits. They don't go back and analyze very often what went wrong. They just charge forward. how did this go on for so long that there was no oversight, quality control? Nobody saw this.
A couple things about that. One, what I don't appreciate yet is whether or not they see this as a one-person operation and that she was acting all alone. And when you become the supervisor of a lab like this, the decisions you make don't really get reviewed by anybody else. The other thing that happens is when you develop a reputation for greatness in your field, and she did, you can imagine people just take for granted that you're doing the right things for the right reasons. And so I think you get a synergy and a momentum there that allows something like this to go on. The fact that it went undiscovered as long as it did is interesting. I want to know at the end of the day here, what was the thing that finally tipped them off to go back and start looking through these things? We don't know that yet. We don't know. I think she probably acted alone in this because she would have been in a position to do it all herself, but don't know for sure. They haven't said in this initial findings from their report whether or not it's clear that she is the only person that did it. They haven't implicated anybody else, but I'm just interested to know how this thing went down. Here's the bigger problem for a guy who's a prosecutor. You want the public to accept DNA testing, and you want them, when you sit in court and you have a jury and you look at them and say there's a 1 in a jillion chance that this person could have left this DNA, and you do that because you want them to trust the science. Well, now because of this case, you're going to have jurors that are going to second guess the science, and it's going to open the door to potential acquittals or something else, because jurors are going to be like, I remember that story. I remember the DNA tester who was manipulating the evidence. And are we about to send someone to prison who maybe doesn't have it coming? That's damning.
And the defense attorneys can use that as well to create that reasonable doubt. Yeah, of course they're going to lean into it.
I don't know that they can bring into any new trials the fact that there was a former DNA analyst or supervisor who did this. That's not going to be evidence in the case. But what you worry about is that permeating the community to such that jurors are bringing that with them into the jury box. You either have to voir dire on it, and if you do that, what you're worried about is you're tipping them off to something maybe they don't know. Like, how many people here heard about, raise your hands, how many people here heard about CBI manipulating DNA evidence? That's a tough question to ask because you're rolling the dice. Do they know it? Do they not know it? If I ask the question, do I plant the seed that that's what happened? I mean, there's some real issues there, and they're going to be confronted by both the prosecution and the defense for the foreseeable future moving through any case that has DNA evidence.
Now, George, just out of strategy-wise, could the defense raise that question in voir dire rather than the prosecution? Could the defense use it to plant those seeds?
It's a great question, Billy. If I'm a defense attorney, I'm looking for ways to ask that question. Remember, the purpose of jury selection is to simply find people that can serve as jurors without bias, without preconceived notions, and they have the ability and willingness to do it. And there's a lot of things that covers. You would have to make it clear to a court that question is designed to ferret out bias. And it's hard for me right now to picture how that is. If you're the prosecution, I get it. You're like, Judge, I need to know how many people are sitting in the box here doubting CBI's, forensic analysis. For the defense, it's in that zip code. But if the prosecution doesn't ask, why are you asking? Is it just, Judge, I just want to see how many people here already doubt the evidence? That's weird for a defense attorney, but it could happen. It could. Yeah. It's just, it's not obvious to me.
One of the big cases that's going to pop up as a result of this is the hammer killer. It was through solving cold murder cases that Woods, the 60 years old, earned a reputation as a skilled criminal scientist. She was adept at finding the faintest DNA samples on old crime scene evidence collected years before the advent of advanced forensics, including clothing and lip balm, according to court documents. One of her most notable cases dates back to 1984, when Bruce and Deborah Bennett and their then 7-year-old daughter Melissa were found beaten to death with a hammer inside their Aurora, Colorado home. Another woman, Patricia Smith, was raped and fatally beaten with a hammer in her Denver suburban home at the same time. The identity of the hammer killer was unknown until 2018, when Woods helped identify a suspect based on evidence extracted from the crime scene. The DNA profile matched a man named Alex Ewing, who was already serving a decades-long prison sentence in Nevada for attempted murder in a pair of bludgeoning attacks. that's the type of stuff that's all going to be reviewed as a result of this scandal.
Yeah. And that's that case I was describing earlier that we solved. By the way, it's its own fascinating case. The investigators at the time before did themselves a future solid by grabbing up as much information that would contain ultimately the DNA that we used to create a profile way back then. Remember, this guy didn't just bludgeon a mom and a dad and a young daughter to death on the celebration of another daughter's birthday. He sexually assaulted the two young girls as well, and that left some DNA on some carpet. Now, that profile was created. It was put up in CODIS. But then get this, man, not every state DNA tests their convicted felons. We do. So it was, I think it was Nevada. Nevada goes through a legislative shift where they come out and pass a law that says everybody in prison in the state of Nevada gets DNA tested, and we upload their DNA profile into CODIS. That thing gets passed. Then the head of the prisons then writes a letter to then Adam Laxalt. I don't know if you remember that guy's name. Woulda, coulda, shoulda been the U.S. Senator out of Nevada. That guy's the Attorney General at the time. Department of Corrections head says, does that mean everybody in prison now or just in the future? And Laxalt's like, the words make it pretty clear it's la-di-da-di everybody. So as this guy is processing his way into being parole eligible, they finally DNA test everybody in their prison population. The minute they load him up into CODIS, kabing, the lights go off and he gets hooked up and connect. Oh yeah, huge stuff. So you can see how powerful and important getting DNA right is. So whether what she did in this case impacts Ewing's guilt and what happens with a claim for a retrial or an appeal, don't know yet. I'm less concerned about that one, although that's a question mark. There are others out there for whom the DNA thing may be the only piece of evidence. And then I don't know where we're at.
Yeah, Woods has already been named in at least one lawsuit related to her work, so it's going to continue to grow. Do you trust Phil Weiser to prosecute this correctly? Loaded question.
No, I don't want Phil Weiser anywhere near this. I'd prefer to have a local prosecutor's office do it, but here's the problem. You have a prosecutor's office who may have been touched or impacted by cases they've prosecuted that have that kind of DNA evidence in it. And the question that you begin to ask yourself is one more of optics than substance, and that is, do you have a dog in this fight? Are you going to go vigorously against a person for DNA manipulation, knowing that that could actually impact some of your prior convictions? So we may be stuck with Phil, but do I think Phil has the competence and understanding of the law to handle this correctly? I don't. I just pray that he has some people on the staff that might.
Well, probably when he's in Hawaii doing those retreat things, he can find somebody. Maybe someone from Chicago or New York. Yeah, maybe some big corporate lawyer.
From one of those firms.
Yeah. Exactly, some big corporate lawyer that's never tried a criminal case. That'd be great. That's worked out well so far. Yeah.
George, can you give us an update on your race? You're running for Judicial District 23, 17? Too many numbers in my head right now.
23, 17 is Adams. Yep, 23. I'm still in it. So
that's good.
Nothing's changed. Oh, by the way, Elbert County, your county,
yep.
Jeff, there's an Elbert County conservative breakfast this Saturday morning. They're doing a DNA forum between me and my opponent, and we will maybe we'll see you out there. I don't know. You got a bunch of family stuff going on, but if you get a chance, RSVP and swing by there.
I have spoken at that event. It is wonderful. And Saturday mornings, I'm normally sitting on a basketball court somewhere, scoring a basketball game. But
is there anybody else in the room?
Yeah.
You do it, okay.
That's good. That was funny.
That's good.
But race going well. Are you confident?
Yeah, it's one of those, and everybody asks the same question. It's the right question to ask any candidate. But it's hard to gauge, right? Like fundraising is going well. Everywhere I go to speak, like when I go to the precinct caucuses and stuff, the feedback is tremendous. But there's no polling. No one's going to spend money to poll a low-level DA's race that's a down-ballot race. It's not going to happen. So you kind of go by those things. You wait to see and make sure that you're able to get on the ballot. And then you really just push super hard in trying to get your message out to the most number of voters. I mean, we're not going to be the driving force behind people turning in ballots this year. It's going to be CD4, right? It's going to be the 800 people trying to replace Ken Buck. And so you got to figure, how do you calculate who are your 4 out of 4 voters or below? And Jeff, I know you know what those words mean from campaign stuff, but you got to figure out who your 4 of 4 are, but you got to work your way down to, how do I get to the 2 of 4 voters to cast their ballot and make sure that they go far enough down the ballot that they mark for Georgie B for district attorney. So I think it's going well. I feel great about it. The feedback's been tremendous. But in this day and age, can anybody know anything? I mean, in politics,
That's true.
I mean, geez.
You can learn more about George Brauchler by going to georgebrauchler.com. Last name spelled BRAUCHLER.com. Learn about his race there. George is a skilled, experienced prosecutor, and appreciate you being on the show today to give us some insight into this DNA stuff. We'll continue to watch this. And another reason why even the watchers need to be watched.
No doubt about it. It's also another reason why this is not one of those jobs that you just wake up in the morning and go, I think I want to be the DA. I mean, you got to have some experience.
Yeah. This is a scandal that is going to plague Colorado in a lot of these cases. And for all of us that care about justice, you care about bad guys getting out because of lawsuits, like the Hammer killer. You care about innocent people being in prison that shouldn't be there. Government is not all knowing, all perfect.
No.
So no, it's not. Well, real quick, by the way, her attorney is a guy named Ryan Brackley, who is an all-world former prosecutor. This dude was the assistant DA, the number 2, up in Boulder and in Denver. He'd previously been with the Manhattan DA's office. This guy is one of the best attorneys out there. So I'm interested to see how he presents this case.
We'll have to have you back to give us updates. George Brauchler, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Again, georgebrauchler.com if you want to learn more about his case. When it comes to creating the perfect kitchen or bathroom countertop, it's all about understanding the client's needs and personal style. That's why communication is key. Mitch Floria is the master craftsman with the Art of Granite and works with his team of highly skilled craftsmen, each with their own unique expertise to bring your vision to life. From single residential installations to large-scale projects, Mitch and his team at the Art of Granite will listen to you and get you what you need. Mitch provides granite, marble, quartz, and other materials from his own warehouse in Denver West at wholesale prices. No markup, so you can get the most for your budget. Mention KNUS and receive a free bathroom countertop with the purchase of your fantastic new kitchen countertops, or get a kitchen or bathroom sink free with the purchase of any countertop package. Schedule a consultation with Mitch and visit his beautiful showroom in Denver West, or call Mitch at 303-386-5919. That's 303-386-5919. Or you can visit his website at theartofgranite.com to start dreaming about your new countertops. That's theartofgranite.com. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Enjoy the sunshine while you got it. It's 64, a little bit of wind today. Showers developing tomorrow, and then heavy snow Wednesday night into Thursday, all the way to Friday morning. It's going to be one of those branch breakers. All my kids are wondering how many days they're going to get off from school.
I know. I'm curious about that one as well, because we always get that one really heavy March snow.
That's
and
right.
This looks
I
like it's
think
setting up for
this
this
is
one.
going to be it.
Yeah, I've got friends in Florida. They're asking about the snow because they've heard about it. Yeah, a buddy of mine yesterday was like, "Is this you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's probably going to be us." Yeah, I don't know.
It's big when that happens. It's like
Yeah.
when you go out with your buddies and then you hear from somebody else in college about how wild the night was. You're like,
you should not have
that
gone
got
home."
around, huh?
Yeah. Or you ever do those ones where they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't have left. And you have no idea what happened afterwards."
Let's check in with the news with Blake Olson News. Good morning, Blake.
Yeah, my kids are on spring break, so they're not happy.
Oh, it's one of
Of
those. Yeah, it's a
course,
bummer.
they want the school days, no doubt. The vice president in town today, so there may be some traffic delays here and there in parts of town, and more on that home explosion on Monday. And the mayor of Denver has everything under control, moving to people who were living outside into the tiny home community just off of Santa Fe. That and more coming up at the top of the hour, guys.
All right, we're
Thank
going to
you.
dive into a big battle that exploded on the Twitter webs
Yeah.
yesterday. A girl named Samira, this went all over conservative Twitter yesterday. Okay, 62.2 million views. And this is what she said. This accent, she posted a video, this accent needs to be illegal. And women should be banned from doing manual labor like this. There is nothing feminine about American women. American women are literally men. And here's the video she linked to.
Good morning, y'all. Quick update on the house because I've been pretty terrible about giving y'all these. We took a little break for noodling season and to put out boxes. Now that it's dried in, we can do it at our own pace. But here she is. We're going to stain all that wood a darker brown, and the shutters, when we get that on, we'll have handrails, of course. There's the carport over there. Quick run through. All these trusses are going to be exposed, and we're going to have old tin in the ceiling. Got Daddy and Paul up there working on a wall we're going to put up for the upstairs office. And we got Def Leppard playing in the background, of course.
So she's walking through a house that her dad is working on, and she's helping her dad. And this lady, Samira Khan, tweeted, that accent should be illegal. Women should be banned from doing manual labor like this. There's nothing feminine about American women. American women are literally men. And then she posted pictures of herself. She's Lebanese.
Yeah.
And she said, Lebanese women are literally perfect. They are actually feminine, unlike estrogen deficient American women who hold the record for highest testosterone levels in the world. Twitter then had to respond with one of those like community comments. Said estrogen varies by many factors. Average national age, weather, diet can change those levels. There's no evidence that USA has low estrogen or hold the record for the highest female testosterone. Okay. Then she says that Melania Trump is the ideal. So she kind of pulls in the Melania Trump, the kind of perfect, model, says that is the ideal. She then tried to do a poll. Who's the most physically attractive? And conservatives blew this up and made American women win that by 72 percentage points. And then she tweets, liberate America from tomboy occupation. Eliminate America from tomboy occupation. Really didn't like the idea of country women.
That is so weird. It's again,
and I'm married to a country woman.
Yeah.
So I played that for my wife. She was not too happy about it.
And the part that I look at is one, the wonderful woman in the videos not doing any labor. I mean, she's not doing. She doesn't pick up a hammer. She doesn't pick up a drill. She wanders through the house, and the only people doing work are the guys. Again, the leapfrog. I mean, I understand that she's like she shouldn't. And yes, and the woman does help out, and she outlines it in another video. But she does help out with her dad and has since she was a teenager. But she's not building the house. She is the assistant.
Yeah.
And it's just like with every other kid that worked with their dad that was a shade tree mechanic. It's come here, hold this for me. Right. I mean, that's kind of what it is. And she loves helping out. And it's time that she spends with her dad. And that's things that she leans into. And the issue for me that I heard in that wasn't a criticism of American women. It was a criticism of individuality. It was, you need to conform to what I say is beautiful.
Yeah, right.
This is what I am going to do, and this is what our standard says. And because this is our standard, you then need to live by it, and you need to be judged by it. I'm sorry. No. How about does no work for you? Is that an okay answer? No. And anyone that's listened long enough understands that this is the exact kind of thing that boils my blood. The idea that we cannot let someone be an individual, let them be. And she talks about how she was more into the hunting and the fishing. And she's
we're
more,
gonna get to that.
Yeah, and I love the fact that she talks about noodling season. And I'm like, that's my girl. 'Cause, I mean, and you know, noodling is the catfish. Yeah, where you're going in the water and you're using your finger as a worm to catch it, to catch the catfish. And when it bites your finger, you then pull it out. That's noodling. I mean, it is remarkably fun to watch.
The girl that other woman went after was a girl named Hannah Barron. Okay, Hannah Barron's the one with the sweet little Southern accent.
Yep.
And she's walking through while her dad is working on a house. She's helping him out.
Yep.
60 million views on that video that woman criticized her for. So Hannah jumps on. She's not trying to pick a fight. Like all of a sudden she just blows up on Twitter. This is her response. Here's Hannah's response.
Good morning, y'all. I don't have a Twitter. I did at one point, but my account got removed for whatever reason, and I just hadn't got around to making another account. But apparently I'm trending on Twitter right now because some girl, hey Merle, some girl
That's
said
her dog,
that
by the
my
way.
accent should be illegal.
Hey, Merle.
Women shouldn't do manual labor. What else did she say? American women are basically men, and she just said that I was not feminine. Ooh. And I would tell y'all this girl's name, but I can't remember it because I don't have a clue who she is. So that should tell you how relevant this person is. But I just think it's hilarious because I grew up as the weird kid in high school who hunted and fished too much because back then it wasn't cool for women to hunt or fish or the whole country lifestyle. And I'm so proud of all the women in the outdoors now who are making that more cool or popular. So proud of us. I think we're doing great. But I've been helping Dad build houses since I was 15. When I was a senior in high school, I taught kids how to weld in ag class. So I've done not manual labor. When I think of manual labor, I think of what my dad does. I'm nowhere near that. I just help as much as I can, and I try. And it's fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of blue-collar women out there who are also feminine. And so I just think that you should embrace your own individuality. You should be yourself. And don't worry about what anybody else said, because these folks talking about me and think they're going to offend me, that ship sailed a long time ago. I've been getting picked on my whole life. I grew up around men. Well, so don't be scared to build your own box and don't try to fit in anybody else's. Be your own person and you'll be happier in the long run because of that. And don't worry about what anybody else has to say. Hope y'all have a good one. Appreciate y'all.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
She and I would be friends in high school, college. That'd be the person that I'd hang out with. I mean, that's exactly the person that I look for. Exactly the type of people that I want in my life that are going to be my friends. It's exactly the person that's like, don't the box define you. Don't let this. And while we were listening to that, I just went and browsed, looking at Lebanese society. I'm not overtly familiar with it, and just wanted to see what's happening. Well, there's a lot of stuff online about what women are and aren't allowed to do. There's a caste system inside the society. So how it's going to be set up. There are religious laws set up that restrict the rights that women have. There's even a separate court system that the women have to go to that's separate from the
Really?
male court system.
Wow.
Marital rape is not covered in their laws. And so that would be acceptable.
Interesting.
Other thing that's not covered in their laws are child brides. It is perfectly legal to have your children and marry them off. But you know what isn't legal in Lebanon? To pass your citizenship on to your children. If you are a woman in Lebanon and you have a baby, it is the nationality of your husband that determines whether or not your child is Lebanese, not you. So talk to me about the perfect woman and not being an individual and not having rights and choices. I think perhaps while I think the person that is making this criticism might be a wonderful person, I think that their filter is skewed based on the system they live under and they grew up under. They may need a different perspective. They may enjoy some of the freedoms that woman who's helping build the house,
Hannah,
that she enjoys. She might actually enjoy not having those pressures from society.
So here's the question that the original poster posted out there. Samira Khan is her name. She finds it hard to believe that American men genuinely prefer tomboys over girly girls.
Again, the weird part is, listen to her statement. She said, generally, she's making an assumption.
Genuinely.
Oh, genuinely. But again, the preference.
Genuinely prefer tomboys over girly girls.
It defines preference. And she's one delineating what a tomboy or girly girl is.
Yeah.
And then she's telling the American men what they prefer. We have no information showing that tomboys are getting married more often than people that are girly girls. We have no information showing that, but she makes this assumption, and in part because she sees this person as popular. I mean, again, she says
Hannah Barron, the one with the Southern accent, that goes noodling, that welds, it is not wife material. Not wife material. I sat there, I looked at my wife, who's a ranch woman.
Yeah.
She's a horsewoman. She's just texting me now going, I think our dog's going into labor.
Oh, wow.
So she's going to spend the next 10 hours basically serving as a wet nurse to our dogs and delivering all these babies.
Oh, geez.
So doing ranch work, being a horse girl, living out on the ranch, being a country girl is not wife material. I just let that grenade fly out there and watch my wife respond to it.
Yes, it's like, hey, catch. I mean, because we've here in America, we've never talked about looking at strong women and admiring some, because Annie Oakley wasn't held up as I mean, that never happened.
Betsy Ross, Margaret, that all strong women, man.
It just, and again, it comes from her perspective. Her perspective is that women are told to be in this box. There are constraints in her society about what a woman could be. And if I want to know how many times in her life that her parents walked up to her and asked, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
What was the list of those choices?
Khan, right?
Yeah. What happened? What were the choices that you have in front of you? And the only thing I will challenge you with Ms. Khan is take a look at the options that are available for you in America. And before you start talking about who any individual needs or should be, perhaps you let them decide. And the place where you can make that decision is here, not in Lebanon, with all respect. And I'm sorry, on a side note, I know that you're not a sci-fi fan, but every time you say Samir Khan, I keep hearing Ricardo Montalban in the back of my head going, Khan! Screaming. Every time you say it, that happens in my head. I can't stop it from happening, but every time you say it, that's what I hear.
All right, so I want to hear from you all. 303-696-1971. Can country girls, Southern accent, out there noodling, working on the ranch with you, are they wife material? Or should they be more girly girl, as Samira Khan says, not tomboys?
And there may be a totally inappropriate image running through my head every time you say noodling. just being honest here. Just saying. Not always the good stuff up here.
303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. Would love to hear from you. Guys, generally we hear talk about medicine and effective treatments for erectile dysfunction and other men's sexual health issues. Today, I want to talk to you about love. The one you love is the light of your life. And if you're like most men, you want to do whatever you can to nurture your relationship. But if you're suffering with ED, you know the impacts the condition is likely having on you and on your partner. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and has successfully treated tens of thousands of men. Schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic today. Your initial visit is only $99 and includes a medical consult with a licensed medical provider, a T and PSA test, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if the test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. They have 5 locations in Colorado: Fort Collins, North Denver, Central Denver, Castle Rock, and Colorado Springs. Stop dealing with the lack of confidence that ED brings. Call them today at 720-440-7900. That's 720-440-7900, or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. That's RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. Students will be able to talk about LGBTQ+ issues in Florida classrooms as long as any discussion doesn't include formal instruction. That's the result of a legal settlement between challengers to Florida's 2022 Parental Rights Bill and Florida officials. Both of them claimed victory on Monday. President Biden will meet Polish leaders at the White House on Tuesday. Poland's a key ally of the US in NATO, and last year President Biden made a trip to the Eastern European country. Warsaw's been a crucial supporter of Ukraine in its fight with Russia. Pablo Gutierrez reports.
Before meeting with the president, the Polish leaders will hold talks with a bipartisan group from Congress to discuss Polish purchases of U.S. arms and cooperation between the two countries. The Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and Polish President Andrzej Duda will also discuss how to continue supporting Ukraine. Poland has framed the Ukraine war with Russia as a fight between good and evil and said Poland will do everything it can to increase Ukraine's chances of victory. The Polish leadership visit to the U.S. coincides with the 25th anniversary of the country's accession to NATO.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
All right, we've blown up the call lines and the text messages. Good Lord. Talk about a place where all sides of Americans can agree. The wrath of God can take a long walk off of a short plank.
That is a great movie. How
There
dare
you
you?
go. Who cares what this woman said? Go back to Lebanon and find a strong man if you can walk 5 feet behind
I will
him.
give that person that texted in the Vulcan neck pinch.
Another good one was I can't find it here. I can work in the farm, and I was elected homecoming queen as well. That's where I think most American women are. I think they can do that. I think they're unique like that in the sense that, they get a hard worker and be elected homecoming queen. We're talking about this fight that exploded on conservative Twitter yesterday. A woman named Samira Khan just bashing a young woman that's working out, helping her dad, She's got a Southern accent. She likes to noodle. And she said there's nothing feminine about American women. American women are literally men. They're not wife material. You're too tomboyish. Let's get to Greg in Arvada. Greg, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning. Hey, Jeff and Bill, I just think this illustrates how little women understand about us very simple men. This is not something that men are concerned about. Are you pretty? And the most attractive quality in a woman, do you like me? And do our values align? And guys are very flexible. Yeah, women are multivariate, but I think this is an argument about women's beauty. Women have it, men don't. We find what we find attractive. There may be a small percentage of men who care if, she's got to be feminine or she eats a fish. Mostly, does she like me? And is she pretty? And so I just think it's a big argument about a nothing burger. So
that's great. Yeah. I love that, because you're exactly right, Greg, that the bottom line is she going to let me see her naked regularly? If the answer is yes, then we got the foundation here. And I think things here will maybe work out. I just got to change some stuff about me. I get it. Yeah.
Greg, I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Let's
man.
go to Jay real quick. Jay from Sterling. Women in rodeos. Yes, they're the best.
Hey, we look at these women. I'm a farmer and a rancher, and we got rodeo queens,
Right.
I dated one. So they know hard work.
Yep.
They understand what us farmers and ranchers and truckers all do. They understand the whole concept of things, but they understand there's one side of it. They understand the caringness that it takes to grow the crops, to raise the horse, to train the horse. Now,
Jay, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Sterling, Colorado, thanks so much for the call. We'll continue this conversation. Are American women too tomboyish? Are they literally men? That's what one Twitter person's saying. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, diving into a Twitter battle that exploded primarily on conservative Twitter yesterday. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're going to get to this in just a second, whether or not American women are too tomboyish. They literally men.
Yeah,
We're going to
so
have
weird.
I know.
It's such a weird thing that I just.
Oh, there you go. We'll get into
Yeah.
it. But first, the news with Blake Olson.
All right, thank you guys. That was actually, when I listened to her, she sounded like one of the most feminine women I've ever heard.
Yeah, those Southern girls, man.
Right. Compared
Nothing
to
wrong with that.
Now you want to, if you want to hear the opposite, I can bring that too. So, all right, 37 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 60s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Great news. C470 in Santa Fe is open. Our top story, inflation was up again in February, sliding slightly higher than analysts were predicting. The Consumer Price Index, a measure of the cost of goods and services, was up 0.4% for the month and 3.2% from the same time last year.
Why are conservatives bad, Mommy? Because I thought we were supposed to conserve things. I couldn't reconcile it. Now I can.
Big day. Vice President Kamala Harris will be in Denver today. Yes, it is.
You want to
How about
avoid
her? let's judge her accent. She'll make her fourth visit to Colorado since she took office 3 years ago. Reportedly, the campaign event is designed to mobilize Latino voters. Colorado is one of 4 states Harris is visiting following President Biden's State of the Union last week. Denver Mayor Mike Johnston, he's addressing concerns about the new micro community in the Overland Park neighborhood. There's a new tiny home neighborhood near Santa Fe, and people who were living outside near Colfax will now arrive there today. It's gated and staffed 24 hours a day for safety reasons. He says the end goal is to get people into permanent housing.
Sounds
Let me
like
tell you
Cherry
something.
Hills.
Yes. Hey, man, they have
Gated.
electrical. Yes, absolutely. The permanent housing looks, the roofs on these things are incredible. 2 buildings near East Quincy and East Smoky Hill Road were damaged Monday after a shootout. Police detained 2 people and found evidence of rifle and handgun rounds on the scene. A family is displaced and 1 person is in the hospital following a house explosion in Denver. It happened Monday in the area of South Osceola Street and West Morrison Road. And first responders found the home on fire. When they arrived, firefighters quickly extinguished the flames, and a corroded gas line was later found to be the cause of the explosion. All right, Laura Trump is the new RNC co-chair. She is trying to combat Attorney General Merrick Garland, once again pushing to allow people without IDs to vote.
Turn out the vote, protect the vote, and raise money. But I would argue that maybe the most important of those 3 is protecting the vote, election integrity. We have to ensure that when people go vote, they feel like their vote counts, that they are inspired to go vote. We can never allow what happened in 2020 and the questions surrounding that election to ever happen again.
Several states holding presidential nominating contests today in Georgia, Hawaii, Mississippi, and Washington. It's 35 in Lone Tree, 34 in Louisville, 37 in Denver. The Nuggets win their 3rd straight. They defeat the Raptors. Conference tournament this week. College hoops. CSU takes on San Jose State in Vegas at the Mountain West Conference tourney tomorrow afternoon. See you in the Pac-12 quarterfinals on Thursday. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, this fight exploded on Twitter, especially conservative Twitter yesterday. A woman named Samira Khan said that this accent, this video here, should be banned in America, and that American women are too manly. There's nothing feminine about American women. Here's the video that she linked.
Good morning, y'all. Quick update on the house because I've been pretty terrible about giving y'all these. We took a little break for noodling season and to put out boxes. Now that it's dried in, we can do it at our own pace. But here she is. We're going to stain all that wood a darker brown, and the shutters, when we get that on, we'll have handrails, of course. There's the carport over there. Quick run through. All these trusses are going to be exposed, and we're going to have old tin in the ceiling. Got Daddy and Paul up there working on a wall we're going to put up for the upstairs office. And we got Def Leppard playing in the background, of course. Back porch, beautiful view. And then
I got Daddy and Paul working up on the trusses.
So good.
So she responds. Now this blows up 60 million views on Twitter just yesterday, critiquing that video. The accent needs to be illegal. Women should be banned from doing manual labor like this. There's nothing feminine about American women. American women are literally men. They're too tomboyish. She then posts a whole bunch of other videos of this girl. Her name's Hannah Barron, by the way. And Hannah likes to noodle the catfish. So she jumps in and catches catfish. She likes to hunt. She likes to fish. She does all that stuff. So just out of nowhere, I mean, she just kind of picks this fight and it blows up. And so Hannah's got to jump on Twitter to respond herself. Here's the response.
good morning, y'all. I don't have a Twitter. I did at one point, but my account got removed for whatever reason, and I just hadn't got around to making another account. But apparently I'm trending on Twitter right now because some girl, hey Merle, some girl said that my accent should be illegal. Women shouldn't do manual labor. What else did she say? American women are basically men, and she just said that I was not feminine. Ooh. And I would tell y'all this girl's name, but I can't remember it because I don't have a clue who she is. So that should tell you how relevant this person is. But I just think it's hilarious because I grew up as the weird kid in high school who hunted and fished too much because back then it wasn't cool for women to hunt or fish or the whole country lifestyle. And I'm so proud of all the women in the outdoors now who are making that more cool or popular. So proud of us. I think we're doing great. But I've been helping Dad build houses since I was 15. When I was a senior in high school, I taught kids how to weld in ag class. So I've done not manual labor. When I think of manual labor, I think of what my dad does. I'm nowhere near that. I just help as much as I can, and I try. And it's fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of blue-collar women out there who are also feminine. And so I just think that you should embrace your own individuality. You should be yourself. And don't worry about what anybody else said, because these folks talking about me and think they're going to offend me, that ship sailed a long time ago. I've been getting picked on my whole life. I grew up around men. Well, so don't be scared to build your own box and don't try to fit in anybody else's. Be your own person and you'll be happier in the long run because of that. And don't worry about what anybody else has to say. Hope y'all have a good one. Appreciate y'all.
So that's Hannah Barron. We're getting text message here. Can you tell me the name of the American Southern girl? Hannah Barron. Last name spelled B-A-R-R-O-N. So here's the question she had in her response. Can you be blue collar and feminine? Can you be blue collar and feminine?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Why would they?
Well, Samira says you can't be.
Here's the thing. I think Samira's just mad that we keep kicking their butt in the World Cup. That's what I think it is.
The Lebanese.
Yes, I think she's really, really mad that her soccer team sucks. And yes, you're awful. You're horrible. And we stomp you routinely and will deal with it. Same thing in basketball. Yeah, that's what I think. I think she's just mad about that.
Give me a call here, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Can you be blue collar and feminine at the same time? I will say, yes, I believe you can. My wife is that way. She's an attorney. She goes on television a lot. She does a lot of radio. She can get all prim and proper and all that stuff that she needs to for television. But we'll spend the day today delivering dogs from our dog that was pregnant.
Yeah, it's like Jay, our farmer buddy, talking about rodeo queens.
Radio queens,
yeah.
yeah.
Man, absolutely
That's
can be
right.
feminine. I have really good friends of the family, Christiansons. They have a ranch out east, and grew up with the two kids, Eric and Julie. And Eric's a little bit older than I am. Julie's a little bit younger than I am. And Julie, as a girl, was running out there as a kid in the farm, in the fields. We went through, she'd help pick corn. We went, was there when we were branding, help, deliver calves. She was in 4-H. And very feminine, very, very feminine woman. The issue for me that I'm hearing in that question from the Lebanese girl, her last name of Khan, because I have to say I'm a Star Trek fan, but I keep hearing that she's uncomfortable being anything but the flower and the princess.
Yeah.
Her life and her reality, and this can be okay for her, is so constrained and limited that another choice isn't even possible.
Yep.
She couldn't
Yep.
imagine being able to be allowed to go out and make these choices. And you've shown me some of Khan's, the Lebanese woman's, Instagram, some of her posts.
Yeah.
It is all about beauty. It's all about feminism. The funny thing is, though, is that we talked about it. There are these times
Almost
in which
not feminism, almost femininity.
femininity. That's better.
Right.
That's much more accurate. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's much more about that. And there's one part where she talks about her beautiful makeup, and she's got in the video, and she's not doing her makeup. It's somebody else doing it.
that.
And I'm looking
You're
at that going,
right.
tell me about how you're a pretty woman when you can't paint your face.
Mhm.
Tell me that you are the example of what should be beauty and held up as the beautiful, perfect princess of a woman, but you can't take care of your own makeup. I disagree that you're being a woman if you can't take care of yourself in that manner. At that point, you're just looking for servants. That's just a
Right.
personal thing. I mean,
I love this text message. This shows you how the world doesn't understand the American culture, old American
great
culture.
point.
Think of the women on the frontier.
Oh, yeah.
That's our heritage out here in the Western United States in the plains. I find it super attractive when a woman can do all the men's stuff, engines, trades, hunting, cleaning animals, ranching. And then they dress up and become rodeo queens as well.
Yeah, I came home this weekend. Was running an errand with one of the kids. Come home, wife's out there washing the car. Of course, and I'm like, it's great. Of course, again, she's watching her car, and she's shorter. And so, of course, the first thing I did is I park the car and you go and you help. That's what the guy does. That's what you do. Your wife's out there washing the car, you go and you help. And that's how this relationship works. But she was out there doing what would be considered, because the guys are the ones who are supposed to be out there washing the car. The guys are the ones who are supposed to be doing this, because that's not a feminine thing. Yeah. Unless you're raising money for the local strip club, then evidently it's very feminine and you have to do it in a bikini. But I don't know.
A lot of our listeners have been watching Hannah Barron for years. I've been
Really?
watching her for years. She's incredible. Again, that's the girl with the Southern accent that does noodling.
I love her personality. There's so much of a sparkle inside of what she's doing, and it just sounds like she's having fun.
Right.
And the part for me is that the woman from Lebanon saw that video, heard her personality, heard the fact that this is something she's enjoying, and then went, "Oh, you obviously are suffering. You're obviously under the yoke of oppression.
You're too tomboyish."
Yes, I can see this is obviously hurting you because of all of the happiness.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A lot of girls texting in that grew up tomboys and were very happy to be tomboys.
Yeah, my wife was absolutely. And yeah, she was absolutely because there were more boys in the neighborhood to play with, and so that's what she did. She played with the boys, and her mom talks about it all the time. And it was one of the things that attracted me to her as well, was that tomboy instinct, to where she wasn't always going to be prim, proper, and wasn't afraid of getting dirty, because life is sometimes about getting dirty. There are times in which she and I, we've amazed people. One thing that we do really well is we are tilers. Tiling, bathroom tiles,
Really?
wall tiles. We are good, and we are wonderful as a partnership, because we each have our roles. We work together, and in fact, this is how good it is. Last time that we remodeled one of the bathrooms, had the plumber come in, and he walks in and goes, "Oh, who did the tile?" And we did. And he looks at us and goes, "No." And we're like, "No, we did." And he's running his hand across it, and he's like, "Wow." He's like, "You guys are really good." He thought a pro had come in and done the tile for us, that we had done it that well.
And your wife jumped in and did that with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that is unique to American women.
It is.
I mean, not always, but I mean, obviously you have Lebanese. This is a Lebanese critique of American women, but that frontier aspect of our history, that women just jumped in and helped and were part of everything, and they weren't sitting back there as princesses waiting for somebody else to help them as they went west.
Yeah.
And
again, going back to our sports things, that's why we're kicking your butts in basketball and soccer and things, because and again, and what about let's see, in gymnastics? I mean, we can keep going if you want, because it's a long list.
And someone pointing out on our text message thread that we seem to be assuming there's just two genders.
And that is a nice shot. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. Well done. High five. Well done.
So interesting all over Twitter yesterday, and really conservative women coming to the defense of the Southern tomboyish girls. That is a new thing that's growing on TikTok and Instagram, are the kind of hunter fisher girls being out there doing all the stuff and growing big followers. They think Hannah Barron's net worth right now is $5 million because of all of her followers on Instagram.
That's fantastic. That is really
There
neat.
you go.
I'm gonna have to start following her just because.
Because you like noodling.
Yeah, that is just to support her in this fight. The idea that take shots at her, we'll get more followers. We'll have more people following her. We will increase the size of her voice based on your criticism. Deal with that.
Want to get into this Christian Post article yesterday. Feds surveilled Americans' private transactions, flagging terms like Trump or MAGA. This is in part to a lawsuit that Alliance Defending Freedom is a part of. The federal government ordered banks to conduct broad financial surveillance of Americans' citizens' private transactions related to politics or religion to identify people it deems as private threats, according to a recent report from a congressional subcommittee. Alliance Defending Freedom, a legal nonprofit specializing in religious freedom cases, was among the organizations listed as a hate group. Alliance Defending Freedom. Those are the people that won the Jack Phillips case, the 303 Creative case. They have won 15 U.S. Supreme Court cases defending our Constitution. They were listed as a hate group by the U.S. Treasury Department, and the Treasury Department advised big banks to monitor customers' donations to the nonprofit. So if you supported Jack Phillips, if you supported these cases that won at the U.S. Supreme Court, the U.S. Treasury Department is now monitoring donations to those nonprofits, and you're probably on a list. We want to get this. We're going to get to this news story. This is big and more. And we want to take your calls, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. I want to tell you, though, your home is a significant asset, and choosing the right team to help you sell it can be the difference in thousands of dollars in your pocket. I highly recommend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team, the realtors I trust. Empower Home team provides exceptional service and valuable advice and employs unique systems to maximize the money you can get for your home. Getting an offer above your home's asking price is great, but you're leaving money on the table by not working with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Gay and her experts get their clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive database is filled with pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team today. Call them at 833-301-SOLD or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's 833-301-SOLD or GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll get to your texts and calls. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. President Biden is due to meet members of the 1.3 million strong International Brotherhood of Teamsters Union in a bid to earn their endorsement for the 2024 presidential election. It's one of the largest unions in the country that remains undecided on which candidate to support. Its members have also recently met with Biden's Republican rival, Donald Trump. Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
Issues on the agenda include wages, income inequality, corporate bankruptcy reform, antitrust enforcement in the warehouse and package delivery industries, and efforts to reform the ability for workers to unionize. The Teamsters endorsed Biden in 2020, and the president has said that he's kept his commitment to be the most, quote, pro-union president ever. Union endorsements could be crucial in such a tight presidential race where just a few thousand votes in key states could decide the election.
The Prime Minister of Haiti has resigned after armed gangs took over the capital while he was out of the country. The gangs, led by a former police officer, released 4,000 prisoners before demanding change at the top. Prime Minister Henry said Haiti needs peace, Haiti needs stability. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
I love the text messages coming in here, by the way. Absolutely fantastic. Love the conversation. Yes, women can be whatever they wish and still be feminine for sure. I grew up around farming and ranching in South Texas, was smart. I went to school, became an engineer, and am definitely not a tomboy. By the way, are we allowed to ski, play tennis, ride bikes, and not spend a bunch of money on makeup and expensive clothes? Yes, most of us live in a world and still get married and on and on. So are all the beautiful women in the rodeo not feminine? Good grief. Thanks, Susie. And I'm 100% a Southern girl. That's great.
Just thought of something.
Yeah.
This con lady that is making fun of Hannah, who now, fan of hers. Has she seen the Barbie dolls? I mean, is she familiar with that entire toy line?
Right. Because they are not all just getting makeup done.
Barbie's done a lot of things and yet continues to still be feminine. I mean, I've seen that she's skier. That happens. Astronaut, scientist. I mean, there are lots of things. I'm just curious. This person on the Instagram that's making fun of Hannah. And Twitter. Really? You're not familiar with Barbie? There was a big movie about it. Maybe you could see the movie. There's a song that Ryan Gosling does. It might help. I'm just saying it may help.
I was on a plane this weekend, tried to watch it. I got through 5 minutes of it.
Really? I haven't seen it yet. I want to. I'm gonna have to sit down and I gotta spend the time doing it. I'm excited.
I just can't get through movies like I used to. I don't have the patience. This one I absolutely love. Lisa from Castle Rock. Yep. You rock. High maintenance women can be expensive. I drove a forklift at Coors for 25 years. Ooh. No one ever questioned if I was a woman.
Wow. And forklift driving, that's a nice skill. There is some real talent to being able to be a good forklift driver because the physics involved is underappreciated. Because things can go really badly, really quickly if you mess that up. So
here's a good
I
one.
salute you.
Every woman in Israel serves in the IDF. They are all tomboys, and many are models too. Think Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot.
Oh yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, tough. All right, we're continuing to watch the news. They're now doing an oversight committee hearing, I think, on the special counsel into Vice President Biden, I think.
Yeah,
right?
it's the secret. It's the classified documents they found. And it's the 15-month investigation. Was it 300 pages or so that Hur did? So yeah, he's explaining that one right now.
Did you see the opening line of Robert Hur's statement?
No, what?
My team and I conducted a thorough independent investigation. We identified evidence that the president willfully retained classified materials after the end of his vice presidency when he was a private citizen.
Yeah, I saw that. And it's interesting because and the interesting thing about that is Hur knows exactly what he's doing because he's not using the word willfully in the legal sense. He doesn't cite the actual law. He's using it purposefully to muddy the water. Very intelligent by him, but he's using this as a smokescreen because he knows that the charges against Trump were willful retention. So he's using that specifically. However, the interesting thing is inside of that statement and the following statements, he never references the law that Trump's being charged under. In fact,
Trump or Biden?
No, Trump. But Trump is being charged under willful retention. In fact, in his original 300-page, I think it is, report, he actually outlines that what Biden did is fundamentally different from what Trump did. No, but hang on.
This is going to be all day tomorrow.
I know, but that's what he says. It's not my interpretation. It's not
your interpretation.
No, it's
totally your interpretation.
When he writes it down on the paper, it's not my interpretation. That's what he wrote. I mean, he wrote it, not my statement, not my interpretation of his statement. It's what he said.
We're going to watch all this. Believe me, it'll be covered tomorrow, including clips. But Fox and other news stations are starting to cover that live. So we'll be watching that, and we'll get a good synopsis for you.
And are we going to find anything out? Nope, not at all. Nope.
Yes, we will.
No, we won't.
We will.
No.
So I do want to talk about this because this actually involves your bank account and the fact that it's likely been surveilled. This from the Christian Post. Feds surveilled Americans' private transactions, flagging terms like Trump or MAGA. And we'll read this and then I'll get to Blake in just a second. The federal government ordered banks to conduct broad financial surveillance. Broad, that means searching lots of accounts of Americans' private transactions related to politics or religion to identify people it deems as potential threats, according to a recent report from a congressional subcommittee. Alliance Defending Freedom, a legal nonprofit specializing in religious freedom cases. By the way, not a hate group. The reason the left labels them a hate group is because they're so effective. They've won 15 U.S. Supreme Court cases, okay? The Department of Treasury, relying on the SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, deemed them a hate group and then as a result advised big banks to monitor customers' donations to the nonprofit. So if you supported Jack Phillips, you are now on a list. ADF provided the Christian Post with a copy of an interim staff report by the U.S. House Select Subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government, released by members of the House Judiciary Committee who are tasked with upholding fundamental American civil liberties, the report states. As part of the mission, the committee and the select subcommittees have uncovered startling evidence that the federal government was engaged in broad financial surveillance, prying into the private transactions of American consumers. According to the report, the financial surveillance was not predicated on any specific evidence of particularized criminal conduct. So it's not like they're going after drug dealers or cartels and looking at their financial transactions. Even worse, it keyed on terms and specific transactions that concerned core political and religious expression protected by the Constitution. If you supported things like Donald Trump or Alliance Defending Freedom or Jack Phillips, there's evidence that the federal government is going through your finances. How does that make you feel? Hearing that. In addition, the federal government is believed to have flagged transactions that involve the purchases of Bibles. Bibles, Trump, Jack Phillips, the federal government looking into your finances as a result of that. They're treating you like a criminal and flagging your financial transactions if you purchased a Bible. Let me know, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let's check in on Blake Olson, see what he's working on.
All right. Well, the city of Aurora doing the right thing, getting tougher on crime and retail theft. We'll discuss that. It's been a huge problem in Aurora and every city across the country. And of course, as you just mentioned, special counsel investigating President Biden handling of the classified documents. So, you know what, you want to do that to us, the Republicans say, or conservatives, we're going to do it back to you. It's time. No more kissy face anymore.
That's exactly right, Blake. I appreciate that. We're going to look to the full news broadcast at the top of the hour. I think, Bill, what drives me crazy, not only does this seem wildly unconstitutional, right? Flagging you because of your purchase of religious texts like the Bible, your support of organizations like Alliance Defending Freedom, is just the low, almost non-existent review of the criminal backgrounds of illegal immigrants coming into this country, where they're like, yeah, we'll see you in 8 years at your immigration hearing. Thank you for declaring that you're a what is it?
Well,
you need to be here. You're a refugee or something like that. We'll see you in 8 years. We're not going to do too much, but we're going to pour through your financial transactions if you purchased a Bible or donated to Donald Trump.
Well, I understand the filter. That now, what you were talking about there is the idea you had made the assumption that the person claiming asylum was illegal, and it functionally works the other way.
No. I'm not. I'm making the assumption that the government is not looking into their backgrounds whatsoever.
Well, that would be the system. And I've advocated for a long time, system's broken, that it is taking way too long to adjudicate those. We spend way too much time letting them establish their roots here in America. And that makes it problematic, if not nearly impossible sometimes, to remove them afterwards, whether or not they are actually here based on a real asylum claim or not. It is absolutely broken. So I agree with you there. The interesting thing is in the reporting so far, I haven't heard if those are the only terms they searched for. I've heard these are the terms they search for, but I haven't heard the entire list. And I think that's important in the conversation because we don't know what other terms they may or may not have searched for.
Why would Bible be on a list at all? Why would that be on a list to flag you and have your financial transactions reviewed?
Now, let's just for fun, let's pick it up and let's put it into a different religious category.
Right.
Let's say it was purchases of Qurans.
Right.
There are people that would argue in this country that if people are purchasing large amounts of Qurans or something else,
it doesn't say large amounts.
No,
It says
I know, but I'm just saying there are arguments that people are saying we should be looking into those. I mean, our former president talked about banning people from specific countries only because they were from those countries. It didn't have to do with any background check or anything else. So the idea that we make these broad generalizations, we do it as a country all the time. I'm not certain why or what it makes sense as far as the Bibles. The only thing I'm going to say, though, is there is one side of our political spectrum that has been advocating for civil war for over 6 or 7 years now and saying they're preparing for it, saying they're getting ready for it. And some of the identifiers in that group are their religion. And it does happen to be a Christian religion. Those are some of the identifiers. Does it mean that all Christians are in that group? No. But does it mean that those groups tend to identify? It's just, this is the example. The best example is how everybody got so mad about the government looking into people that went to school boards to complain.
Yes.
And that story
was sitting in parking lots going through their license plates.
And that story was reported incorrectly. That again was almost, for me, almost journalistic malfeasance all across the board. Nobody got that story right because the government wasn't looking at parents going to school board meetings. Not at all. They were looking into parents that went to school board meetings that issued death threats. That seems to be okay in my book. If you're going to issue a death threat to a school board member, I'm okay with the government looking into you. And that was the issue. That's what happened. But the story was they're going after the parents of the meetings. That was never true. That was never the directive that came out of the Department of Justice. But
I think
covered it.
You could
Nobody
make
said
that argument if innocent parents weren't getting picked up by some of the stuff. The FBI kicking in the door of a Catholic dad of 6 or 8 or 10, however many kids he has, pulling them all out, all because of the FACE Act.
Again, I would have to look at the particulars inside that I'm not familiar enough to discuss that in any realm based on the details.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I don't have that available to me, so I can't comment, and it's not fair for me to comment one way or the other because I don't think that I would be doing it accurately. So I don't know, but I do know the directive from the Department of Justice, and that is an issue. And I would say that fundamentalism under any religion, when you're saying that then has to comport and take over the government and that maybe violence is involved. And we see that in a number of different religions. And we see it a lot. I mean, we're seeing it right now, in my opinion, with Islam, as far as Hamas, Palestine, and the Middle East. I see that aggression. Man, they're using the religion to justify the aggression. I see that. And I see it with Iran. So the idea that people use their religion to justify violence, I think exists. I do question why Alliance Defending Freedom would have been caught up in it. However, again, if I was just imagining, could I see a small segment of people that could have donated to Alliance Defending Freedom also be involved in some of these groups that would be a risk? I can see that, because I don't think it wouldn't be out of touch for whatever reason. Someone in a very violent, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, people that have been convicted of seditious conspiracy, could they have donated to ADF, and could they be monitoring it for that, just to look? They could. But I don't, but I want to know more about it. And the other thing is, I'm real curious about the entire list of terms, because I'm only hearing the conservative things. And if it's only those terms that are on the conservative side of things, I got a real big issue with this. I'm going to get really upset, but I'm not sure yet. I don't know what else was going on. So
this is from the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee, Chairman Jim Jordan, press release: federal government flag transactions using terms like MAGA and Trump for financial institutions. New documents obtained by the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government reveal that the federal government flagged terms like MAGA and Trump for financial institutions if Americans use those phrases when completing transactions. Individuals who shopped at stores like Cabela's or Dick's Sporting Goods or purchased religious texts like a Bible may have also had their transactions flagged. This kind of pervasive financial surveillance carried out in coordination with and at the request of federal law enforcement into Americans' private transactions is alarming and raises serious concerns about the FBI's respect for fundamental civil liberties.
Did Jim release the entire list of terms?
There's a whole list of documents there.
No, I know, but I'm just curious. In the list of documents, did he release all the terms? I'm just curious. And that would help me understand. Again, you don't have to find that right now. We can keep looking later. But I'm super curious about it, because Jim has been okay on some subjects and omitted things in other subjects. And so, I'm tempted to go down a road I probably shouldn't at this point, based on Ohio State, but that's okay. We're not going to go there. The idea that
there are transactions into populations that shop at durable goods, sports goods, pawn shops, recreational services, and then they list a whole bunch of keyword inclusions to look for, everything from AR-15s to Cabela's to it's a little blurry.
Let's play just pretend. Let's pretend that 16 months from now, we have something that happens in this country like what happened in Israel, where we have a whole bunch of terrorists that take firearms and attack a whole bunch of citizens. And there's a lot of them all over the country. One of the big questions we're going to ask is, why didn't the government flag the purchases of these people when they were buying all the guns? Because they bought a lot of guns and they were doing something with them. And couldn't we cross-reference maybe the fact that they were flying back and forth to Saudi Arabia or other countries all the time? We would be asking for those flags. So this is where I have a difficulty. I'm not in favor of the government, especially Alliance Defending Freedom. I think that seems untoward. The Bible seems absolutely out of bounds. But I'm curious what the list is, because I can see a situation on the other side where we would be asking some really hard questions if the government didn't look into these transactions.
When the president of the United States says MAGA Republicans are the biggest threat to democracy, you're getting a lot of pieces put together right now.
Yeah, but then again, the other candidate for president, a guy that had the office last time, talked about the Democrats trying to tear America apart. And he did that while he was in office. So the idea that because we are characterizing the other side of the political aisle one way or the other,
and then using the power of government to flag their purchases and unleash, transaction reviews, scary stuff. All right. Well, how does this make you feel, knowing that Bible, MAGA, Trump, shopping at Cabela's, those types of things have been flagged by the federal government for greater scrutiny by financial institutions and the FBI? Doesn't make me feel good. And especially if you combine that with the Vice President of the United States, or President of the United States, Biden, former Vice President, saying that MAGA Republicans are the greatest threat to democracy. It seems like they're organizing against political opponents and using the power of government to do so. All right. We all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and to overcome pain. I'm thriving and fighting back my workout soreness with UltraCur. UltraCur is a patented, non-prescription, natural capsule that works fast. Surveys show that 50% of people who use UltraCur find relief within 48 hours, and half of those within 2 hours. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro natural grocers and ask for the health coach. If they're not available, the vitamin manager, for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. UltraCur gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach, and it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to the natural grocers, grab your free 3-day trial of UltraCur, no strings attached. Wondering about the research? Get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Jeff and Bill show here. We're tracking this case reported in the Christian Post yesterday. Feds surveilled Americans' private transactions, flagging terms like Trump, MAGA, Bible. Did you donate to Jack Phillips? Defend his case. You've likely had your financial transactions flagged. Let's get to the lines here. Frank in Evergreen. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Frank.
Hey, good morning. This is one more example of a government so far out of control. It's beyond comprehension, really. First of all, as far as, Billy's assertion that we have one party that's, advocating overthrow of the U.S. government, or he didn't say it that way. He said revolution, I guess, or not revolution, civil war. First of all, they already have all the gun information. Matter of fact, the Chinese have it too. So when they land on our shores and parachute in, they're going to know exactly where to go. So here's the deal, man. I mean, our government, what is our government doing? They should not be doing any of that stuff. We give them the right to do by law, they have the right to collect firearm purchases. And I just purchased a new firearm the other day, went through the process. It's a major pain in the butt. But I live with it. And, this is obscene. And people who can't see that, go ahead.
Frank, I think what just gets me going on this is I'm looking at the federal government pouring resources, tracking people who have purchased Bibles and looking at their financial transactions. And then the city of Denver is going to spend $120 million to provide free healthcare, free education, free housing, all that stuff to illegal immigrants.
And that same government, by the way, is giving billions of dollars to Catholic charities to support illegal immigrants coming into our country so they can, commit crimes and kill people.
Right.
Yeah, because that's a motivation.
Our government is so whacked. Our government is so whacked.
Yeah.
When people and
the
as
Catholics
far as
are bringing the criminals in to kill people.
No, they are actually.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Catholic charities, you need to look into
Sure.
it.
Yep. Because that's what they've been known for. Is the goon squads and killing
if you
people.
If you look, actually, I'm not anti-Catholic at all because there's a lot of my family members are Catholic. I happen to be another religion, but here's the thing: is if you look back into the Catholic religion, you'll see quite a bit of issues they've had with not treating people right. Anyway.
It's kind of a religious thing. I appreciate that, Frank. I'm sorry, we're running out of time. Apologize.
Frank's line's going to be open 303-696-1971. Federal government tracking MAGA Trump donors, people who purchase Bibles, getting flagged and having their financial transactions reviewed. We'll continue the conversation. Stick around, Tony. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710.
KNUS. My turn.
It's 9 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS. We're getting your feedback. We're covering the news that really affects you. And we want you to call in and be part of the conversation. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let's go to Blake Olson with the news. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Billy. 42 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 60s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the special counsel who investigated President Biden's handling of classified documents is testifying before a Republican-led House panel. Robert Hur ultimately declined to bring criminal charges against the president and said the facts stopped short of finding he willfully retained classified material. But conservatives disagree and say there's a huge double standard being exercised. Presidential nominating contests will be held in several states today. Voters will head to the polls in Georgia, Hawaii, Mississippi, and Washington. This as both President Biden and former President Trump are assured to win their party's nominations. Lara Trump, new RNC co-chair, trying to protect our elections.
Turn out the vote, protect the vote, and raise money. But I would argue that maybe the most important of those three is protecting the vote, election integrity. We have to ensure that when people go vote, they feel like their vote counts, that they are inspired to go vote. We can never allow what happened in 2020 and the questions surrounding that election to ever happen.
Vice President Kamala Harris will be in Denver today, marking her fourth visit to Colorado since she took office 3 years ago. Reportedly, the campaign event is designed to mobilize Latino voters. The Aurora City Council is approving an ordinance that brings tougher penalties for those convicted of retail theft. It requires 3 days in jail for any first-time retail theft offense. The penalty goes up to 45 days in jail for a second offense and to 120 days for a third offense. Fort Collins police searching for a murder suspect wanted in a gang-related killing. A warrant has been issued for the arrest of 32-year-old Adrian Pacheco, who's accused of first-degree murder. Pacheco's mugshot has been released to the public. He's considered armed and dangerous, and if you see him, call 911 and do not approach him. Hey, Bradford Wilcox, author of Get Married, joined Jeff and Bill early this morning. You know what? Marriage is good for your health.
No group of Americans are less lonely, more financially secure, or happier than married dads and married moms. So the book is kind of just underlining the power of marriage in people's lives and also encouraging them to, basically defy elite messaging that discounts and devalues the importance of marriage. And
just don't take your spouse to a Broncos game. The Broncos set to sign Dolphins safety Brandon Jones. The Nuggets win their third straight, 125-119 over the Raptors. We've got March Madness college basketball tournaments heating up. CSU takes on San Jose State in Vegas in the Mountain West Conference tourney tomorrow afternoon, and CU in the Pac-12 quarterfinals on Thursday. It's 40 in Lone Tree, 37 in Broomfield, 42 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Have a great day. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, we're going to get to the lines here. Tony, you've been waiting patiently. Article in the Christian Post just yesterday about the fact that the federal government is tagging words like Bible, Trump, MAGA for financial institutions to review. Here is Jim Jordan's critique of this. This kind of pervasive financial surveillance carried out in coordination with and at the request of federal law enforcement into Americans' private transactions is alarming and raises serious doubts about the government's respect for fundamental civil liberties. It's taking words like Dick's Sporting Goods or purchases at Cabela's and any type of action related to Americans exercising their Second Amendment rights and has adopted a characterization that Americans participating in these activities are potential threat actors. Purchasing Bibles, shopping at Cabela's, donating to Alliance Defending Freedom in support of Jack Phillips. The federal government is characterizing these activities and making Americans look as potential threat actors. You combine that with Joe Biden saying that MAGA supporters are the greatest threat to American democracy, and I think you have a federal government that's turning against its own people, which isn't good. Tony, let's go to you in Littleton. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning. I haven't read that article, but you've described it pretty well, and I'm thinking that we got to start with the root idea that the FBI has long identified right-wing groups, extremist right-wing groups, as the greatest domestic terrorism threat that we have right now, and I don't think anybody's disputing that, and that's violence against political violence, religious violence, violence against gay people, all of that. So when you say that if you have Bible, they're flagging everybody, they're going after everybody. I don't think that's really what that article is talking about or what is really going on here. I think what they're saying is if they've contributed to ADF and they're looking for these various terms, they're really trying to find in the Venn diagram, how does that intersect with these same people? Are they part of one of these other groups, one of these actual more, say, Proud Boys? We'll just use Proud Boys. Are they also associated with the Proud Boys? And if you are associated with the Proud Boys, you certainly might consider donating to ADF because they've been effective in the courts, right? I mean, so I think
any American that supports the Constitution should support ADF. I mean, they've won 15 U.S. Supreme Court cases. They're not a hate group.
Yeah, they've been identified as a hate group
by
because
whom?
of their
by whom?
The Southern Poverty Center,
right? Which is a hate group itself.
I understand. I understand that's your position. But look, you also have voiced recently that you're comfortable with, maybe not the term, but a theocracy. You don't know why we wouldn't have a government that's directed by religious.
You do have a government that's directed by religious values. You live in a government right now. Tell me where "thou shalt not steal" comes from.
That may be.
Where did that come from? Where did thou shalt not steal come from?
It's listed in the Ten Commandments,
right?
But just because
so
it's
your
in the
laws,
Ten Commandments,
the laws you live in right now are based upon religious values.
Some laws would overlap with what the Ten Commandments. Absolutely, that's no surprise there. There's no surprise that there would be some overlap, but I don't think anybody sat down and said, okay, let's just look at the Ten Commandments and build all our legal structure around that. That's not what happened in our country. And you would support that. I know you would support that. I was simply making the case to you that I think what they're really looking for is the intersection between the groups that are actually committing violence, and seeing if they can draw links back and identify these people. And it makes sense that you would maybe look at the ADF, because if you were with the Proud Boys, you'd be happy to donate money to the ADF that would be out there fighting your cause for you.
Why not just go after the people that are doing violence? What's the point of tagging people that purchase Bibles in an effort to see if they might be part of a terrorist network? Why not just go after the people that are actually doing violence?
They're not easy. They're not all easy to find. I mean, this is a big challenge that the FBI has now, trying to rein in this kind of violence. Right-wing violence is on the rise.
Where? To whom?
Even the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh is considered a right-wing violence. The guys in Charlottesville, that's right-wing violence. And so those groups, maybe they'll find more of these people inside those groups by looking at their donations to the ADF. That's all I'm saying. It may be no more than just a tactic that the FBI is using, trying to identify more of these people.
You think that it's appropriate for the government to dive into personal financial transactions, not because anybody committed a crime, but simply because they supported a group like the Alliance Defending Freedom that has no history of violence whatsoever, no history of violence at all. So if you donate to them, it's okay for the federal government to dive into your personal finances?
Their positions very aggressive in being anti-gay, and there's certainly yes it is. They're on record with extreme positions against gays, and
Jack Phillips is extreme positions against gays. Jack Phillips is like the nicest guy in all of Denver.
I'm not even specifically talking about Jack Phillips, and I was really just raising the point to you that this may be just an FBI tactic trying to find out who's sitting in the center of this Venn diagram that may be associated with one of these groups. And
do the ends justify the means? Do the ends justify the means? You're okay if someone buys a Bible for the federal government to pour through their financial transactions to see if they might be part of an extremist group because they purchased a Bible. Green light, federal government, go through their financial transactions.
I'm not actually making a judgment. I haven't given it enough thought to say that I think that's right or wrong. I'm simply raising the point that I think that's probably what's going on here. They're simply trying to figure out, can they identify some of the extremist people who are in these extremist groups by their contributions to ADF, and they may be picking up these terms, and these terms are being thrown out Cabela's in some of these places because maybe they're buying more guns, they're buying more ammo, and they're trying to again identify these people before they commit crimes.
How about BLM? Is it fair for the federal government to go through the financial transactions of everybody that donated to Black Lives Matter in order to see if they're part of an extremist or violent group?
If you've seen Christopher Wray testify before Congress on this issue, as of right now, the FBI does not consider Black Lives Matter to be anywhere near the level of in terms of domestic terrorism that right-wing groups are. That right-wing groups are, if we put a percentage, 95%, and Black Lives Matter is 5%. And I picked those, I just made those numbers up, and I'm basing that on what Christopher Wray has testified before Congress. They're not a concern to us. It's the right-wing groups that we have to rein in because they are the ones that have been the most extreme. And that's, they have limited resources, and then even got cut resources in this last round. In this last budget thing that went through, they even lost some more resources. So they're going to go where the worst of the worst is. And right now it's right-wing groups. And again, I'm not defending the action. I was just simply making the point. That's probably what's going on, is they're trying to identify people in right-wing groups, and they're looking at their contributions to an organization that is effective and could and may help lead them back to more people inside these groups.
Tony,
That's all
thanks
I
for the
think that's
call.
going on.
Tony from Littleton, his line's going to be
Yeah,
open,
that was good.
303-696-1971. I think you just saw what this was all about.
What was that?
I think you saw
Tell
what
me.
this was all about.
Yeah.
Right? If you believe that Alliance Defending Freedom is a worse threat to America than BLM is, and therefore it's okay for the federal government to pour through any financial donations to ADF and track you and look at your spending to see if you're a domestic terrorist. While meanwhile, BLM, which destroyed cities all throughout the United States in 2020.
We rebuilt them quickly, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
I
We're
disagree.
just going to let
disagree with the
those
word-
transactions
yeah, but
go.
I disagree
We're
with the
going to
word
let those
destroy.
transactions go. Meanwhile, you bought a Bible. You see what this is really all about.
Do we know that BLM or other associated terms are not?
I'm not seeing them on the
filter?
list.
I know, but we don't know.
But then you're getting to the larger point, right? The larger point is you donate it to an organization. There's nothing hateful about ADF at all, period. They're a fine organization. They have defended and protected this Constitution probably better than anybody else. Okay? 15 U.S. Supreme Court victories. What you're saying is you donate to one of those organizations, federal government, pour through those transactions because you may find some type of overlink to some.
It's almost as if
radicalism
that we forget in this conversation that once a year we send the government all of our financial information. Once a year we send them all of it. So the idea that the government is now looking at our financial information, they already have it. Again, that's why I feel this is a tempest in a teapot. It is much ado about nothing because the government already has a lot of information about you. And if the government wants to flag transactions for BLM and cross-reference them with other terms that may be linked with left-wing violence, sure, I got no problem with that. Now, the problem,
do.
Well, here,
I do.
The problem that I've got
with the Constitution.
The Constitution. The idea that
you want to look through someone's financial stuff, you get a warrant.
Here's the thing. Yes, you can. But in order to get there, you need to flag the terms. You need to find them. And if you're not flagging the terms, you can't get there. So the idea being that someone has the term Bible in the transactions and donating to ADF, but then also has donations or participation with Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, other groups, that can be a picture that is put together. That's the thing is I feel that it is incorrect in the conversation to talk about these terms in silos because the way that this works, they're not looked at in silos. It's even how the search algorithm inside of Google, how their spider crawls the web and scrapes off information from all the websites so that then they can spit it out to you inside of the search algorithm. That's how it goes. It's an amalgamation of terms. It's not a singular term. And that is my impression of what they were doing. And will those singular terms be caught up? Yes, they will. They will. And so individually, everybody that bought a Bible, no, probably dumb. But if you cross-reference things like Bible, bought a lot of guns, and maybe has donations to things like Proud Boys, you may want to look. I'm not saying that person's a criminal. You may want to look. Just like if someone donated to BLM, maybe donated to a radical left-wing religious group, and also bought a lot of guns. You may want to look. You may have a question about it. Just like we talk about the 9/11 hijackers, one of the things they said is, but these guys weren't trying to learn how to land. That wasn't a flag. There should have been some other flags. I'm just saying that's what I'm looking for here.
I do not believe that there's a right to privacy in the Constitution. There is not a right to privacy in the Constitution. But There is a right to protection against unreasonable search and seizure, and I think this would fall under that.
Yeah,
Jay, we're going to get to you.
Unoriginal search and seizure. I just take me out. Call me nice names and buy me a couple drinks. Then you can do all the searching and seizing you want. Ah, baby.
Give us a call. What do you think of this? 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. The Judiciary Committee chaired by Jim Jordan. Press release, federal government flagging transitions using terms like MAGA, Trump for financial institutions to review. And Jim Jordan making the argument that they're essentially, the government is adopting a characterization of traditional American activities, shopping at Cabela's, buying a Bible, buying a gun as potential threat actors. And that's not right. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Jay, I'm going to get to you in just a second. Guys, for those of you with a full head of hair, congratulations. Studies show that one of the most attractive physical features is a full head of hair. Want to know the least attractive and most aging? Well, it's hair loss. No amount of car, house, or success can make up for the thinning or balding, as it leaves the greatest lasting physical impression. It doesn't have to be that way. Advanced Hair has the quick one-day solution to your hair loss. No more expensive pills or special shampoos, just your very own natural hair guaranteed to grow. And with Advanced Hair, your new hair can grow for life. Advanced Hair has improved tens of thousands of lives, including top radio personalities across the country. Did I mention your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day? For your free consultation, call 720-459-HAIR. And if you qualify, get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. AdvancedHair.com, 720-459-HAIR. AdvancedHair.com. Let's go to Jay in Littleton. Jay, you're on News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Jay.
Morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. First time caller. Haven't listened that long because you guys haven't been on that long, but I've been listening.
Great. I appreciate
also,
it.
No, of course. Listen, I all cards on the table. I do possess a glorious full head of hair. So just in case anybody.
Nice.
Oh,
The
gosh.
rest of
I
us
think
jealous.
I'm losing my hair. I think you're going through a tunnel right now. We're losing your signal. I don't know why.
Listen, I've got back hair to spare. If you're interested in some of that transplantable, you would have an afro.
Oh, I appreciate you looking out for me, my friend. Thank you.
So, listen, in response to the previous caller and people who think like that group think that unfortunately pervades a lot of the country now. Anybody who starts off with white nationalism or alt-right, whatever is the cause for major scrutiny and one of the larger purveyors of violence in the country. I hope they understand, when people who actually look for things and look things up themselves and not rely on the pablum spoon-fed to them by the lunacies from all the crazy mainstream media that obviously is towing a line and has done the work for themselves, hear that. They know that person is absolutely low IQ, has no clue whatsoever. They probably also think cops shoot black people all the time and it's a racist thing, and when whites get shot by far more percentage than blacks do. But neither here nor there. Listening to the government overstepping their bounds, full of overreach, as always. Listen, yes, we send our information into the IRS once a year. That's true, but not at the transactional level, right? That's different. That's very different. You get that when you get audited, and even then you're still going over receipts. And they're not looking at real lifetime transactions. That is an overstep of bounds. The IRS itself is, a lot of people have their questions and concerns about how that's been run in the last, 25 to 100 years. But at the end of the day, they've clearly overstepped their bounds. Anybody who can't seem to fathom the point, which is if it's done on some people who purchased a Bible, what keeps it from also happening to somebody who purchased a Quran or purchased an extra large Coke and a giant double cheeseburger because they're going to start watching your weight? for you because fat people are going to get taxed more. These people, if you can't go from point A to point B logically, you probably shouldn't call to comment on anything because you don't understand where this can go and where it can lead.
Jay, appreciate the call. Jay from Littleton. Jay's line is going to be open 303-696-1971. Give us a call about this. For me, it goes back to labeling what should be perfectly acceptable American activities: buying a gun, buying a Bible, shopping at Cabela's, donating to Donald Trump, donating to Alliance Defending Freedom, and listing those types of Americans as, quote, potential threat actors. It's the same thing that Jim Jordan goes after. This kind of pervasive financial surveillance carried out in coordination with and at the request of federal law enforcement into Americans' private transactions is alarming and raises serious doubts about the government's respect for fundamental civil liberties. If you're concerned about radical white nationalists harming people, go after radical white nationalists. Somebody that buys a Bible, donates to Alliance Defending Freedom, supports Donald Trump is not a radical, violent nationalist. And you're starting to turn the federal government to look at traditional American activities and the people that participate in those into potential threat actors. I think it's very dangerous. I want to talk to you about my friends at Dan Caplis Law. Speaking of good constitutionalists, Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer. Dan is also a former seminarian. Dan has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, call 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. Donald Trump is seeking to derail the first of his criminal trials just weeks before it's scheduled to get underway. Trump faces 34 counts related to allegations he paid hush money to a porn star ahead of the 2016 presidential election. But his legal team argues the trial should be delayed until the Supreme Court makes a call on whether he's immune from prosecution for his conduct while president. His legal team hopes that would mean evidence from statements provided while he was in office are ineligible, weakening the prosecution's case. President Biden will meet Polish leaders at the White House on Tuesday. Poland's a key ally of the US in NATO, and last year President Biden made a trip to the Eastern European country. Warsaw's been a crucial supporter of Ukraine in its fight with Russia. Pablo Gutierrez reports.
Before meeting with the president, the Polish leaders will hold talks with a bipartisan group from Congress to discuss Polish purchases of U.S. arms and cooperation between the two countries. The Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and Polish President Andrzej Duda will also discuss how to continue supporting Ukraine. Poland has framed the Ukraine war with Russia as a fight between good and evil.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
Welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show, 9:32 on this Tuesday morning, March 12th. 64 today. It's going to get wet tomorrow and snowy Thursday and Friday. So this is going to be a big one. I think they're expecting 12, 18 inches of snow.
But in the metro area, we're going to have 12, 18?
Well, at least out in Elbert County, that's
where
what
you
we're
are.
expecting.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on the east side of town, and so we're closer to the east side of the plains, and so we don't get it doesn't build up the same.
I think it's
that it
going to
does near
hit
you guys. Yeah,
it's just wonders how much rain versus snow it's going to be.
Yeah.
Thank God for this, though. I love the
yeah.
precipitation in Colorado.
Yeah.
It makes the whole summer better.
Oh, it does. But as a snow shoveler, boy, does it suck. I mean, shoveling snow in Colorado is great up until about middle of January, because you could do it with a brush or like a leaf blower. You just go, those first few
so
snowfalls,
dry.
yeah, it's just, you can't even make snowballs. I talk to friends that are elsewhere in the country, and I tell them, they are amazed. I'm like, no, you can't make snowballs with early season snow here in Colorado. Late season snow, it's where all the moisture is, and yes, but it's heavy.
Yep.
And turns into ice way too quickly.
We don't use shovels out where we live. We use tractors.
Very, very smart. It's funny you say that now. I got to go down a road just for a second here. My youngest, we are talking about cars and things for her. And oddly enough, I'm like, well, what kind of car do you like, etc. Unlike the other kids, she's not too picky, which is really nice. She goes, I'd even do a pickup truck, which our kids, that's unusual because we don't use pickups like you guys do on the ranch. We just don't have the functionality. We don't have a use for them. So the family's never had one. We've had minivans and other things. And I went, really? So I found one up in, I think it's Laramie or Cheyenne, that's for sale. Really, really good price on an F250 and has a blade on the front. So you have a removable snow blade. And I'm like, oh, and I showed my daughter, I'm like, look, lights on the front. And she's like, what's that big gizmo on the front? I'm like, no, that's for the snowplow blade that you do this. And it's included in the purchase price. And I'm like, come on, you could be the hero of the neighborhood. And she starts looking at me, you get that 15-year-old look like, really? that just like, if I could kill you right now, Dad. I mean, where it's the voice inside her head is like, you really don't like me, do you? You just hate me. You're just suggesting this. And part of it was to make fun of her. But I'm like, come on. If I could persuade one of my kids to get a truck that had a snowplow on the front.
Be amazing.
Oh,
you'd be like the Plow King.
Yes, it would be. It'd be Plow
Homer
King in the
Simpson.
neighborhood. I know. That's the
Mr.
thing.
Plow.
See, that's
Mr. Plow.
You see my vision, sir. You see it. She does not. She doesn't recognize the greatness that is in front of her sometimes.
All right, I've got
Continue,
some
I'm sorry.
audio. I want to see if you think this is real or fake. I've actually found the story on it. All right, Bill, you tell me.
All right.
True or fake?
Oh, great.
My son does identify as a cat, but I cannot take him to a vet because I tried that, and the veterinarian told me that because he has human anatomy, that he does not know how to work on him or diagnose him with anything, and he legally cannot. So, and while I do think that is a form of discrimination, because my son, if he says he's a cat, he is a cat, and he needs to be treated like that, like one, But I'm not going to press charges because I know that he could lose his license if he did work on my son. So I'm not gonna try to sue him or anything. So don't worry. But this is something that I want to raise awareness on, because I do think that people that identify as an animal should be able to go to the vet. That's the medical attention that they're wanting. And so I really do appreciate you asking this question. I think it's an important topic that we discuss, because if we don't, we're never going to make progress. And these people that identify as cats are going to have to continue going to human doctors. And I just don't think that that's fair.
Mom has a son that identifies as a cat, tried to take him to the vet, and the vet wouldn't treat him because he's not a cat. True or fake?
My thing is, okay, this is the problem. This is the thing, is I am going to say fake. And this is the only reason, because I'm really, really, really hoping that this parent isn't this rock chewing stupid. I'm really hoping that you do not have another person that you're responsible for feeding and caring for, and you believe this. So it's just, my faith in humanity is You can't be this stupid, please. So what's the answer?
It is fake.
Oh,
it
good.
is not true. But
Oh,
the
good.
point being
I was
in our
so
culture that you don't quite know anymore.
Yes, you don't.
You don't quite know anymore with all this
Yes.
crazy stuff.
And here's the
Because
thing.
you have heard of men
Yeah.
sometimes trying to go to an OBGYN.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And here's the test, okay, for if your child. Now again, if you're a parent and you have a child that is pretending to be a cat, a dog, whatever it is for a little bit of time, the one question you have, whether or not you take them to the vet, is are you able to lick those parts of your body that we don't allow you to show in public? If you cannot, you're going to the human doctor. If you manage to be that limber, we can talk about a vet. However, on the other end, anyone that's a parent, and you know this, Jeff, that what you do if the child is in that type of fantasy world at this point, you say, this is amazing. Did you know that your regular doctor also works on cats? This is incredible. I don't know how
And the
this
doctor
possibly
you really
happened.
should be seeing as a psychiatrist.
Exactly. But at least you could get in there, and I'm sure that the pediatrician would play along. What a good kitty. Everything else. They've had more. As long as the kid's not screaming and trying to bite them, I'm sure they will be fine with it. Again, I am so happy that it is fake, but
that was fake.
It says a hell of a lot about the fact that I didn't know, not just my idiocy, but just in society, where we've gone. Yeah, it says a lot.
Imagine effortlessly gliding open your cabinets or drawers to reveal neatly arranged shelves that showcase your belongings. With roll-em-out shelves, you'll easily access your pots, pans, and other essentials, eliminating chaos and increasing speed and functionality in your home. Roll-em-out shelves understands that every home storage needs are unique. Whether you're dealing with tight corners or expansive cabinets, your shelves will be custom built to maximize every inch of available space. Joyce and Brent Tolliver, the mom and son dynamic duo, leave satisfied customers wherever they go, and their all 5-star reviews confirm this. Here's what some of the overjoyed customers have said. Life-changing. So much wasted space in our kitchen cabinets. My space has literally tripled, and I am so happy. We are so happy with our kitchen that we are now planning to do our bathroom as well. Joyce and Brent listened to our needs, stayed on schedule, and found solutions to our specific problems. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll-em-out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today. 303-475-9601. That's 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Tell them Jeff sent you. rollemoutshelves.com. They'll be visiting our house this next week. Excited to get all that stuff in.
Where are they going to be looking? Where are you bringing
Kitchen.
them? Yeah.
Kitchen primarily, maybe laundry room as well. My wife, I married Monica Geller from Friends.
Really?
You know that?
No, I did not know this.
So
tell me
did you
more.
watch Friends?
Sir, I have the Friends version of Cards Against Humanity.
So you've watched the show.
A little familiar. Just a little familiar.
Yeah.
In fact, I have at my house, I should bring you a picture. I'll see if I can bring my picture. Do you remember at the Central Perk? Again,
yeah.
I know the name of the coffee store.
There you go.
A little familiar with the store. The first couple of seasons, they had those big coffee cups that they have.
Yeah.
I still have them. In fact, there are a couple of things on that show that my wife and I purchased at stores before they were on the show. I had the big giant coffee cups before they were on the show. So, and we still had managed to hold on to one. We were down to 2, a green one and a blue one. The green one died because one of my kids has butterfingers. So that broke. Yeah, that broke a couple of years ago. So we only have the one blue one left, and I still have the saucer.
Not the ones actually used on the show, just like it.
But
right?
it's the ones, eventually the ones when they purchased them and then brought them on the show for Central Perk. Yeah, I bought them about 6 months earlier from the same store. Again, not a genius move on my part, but I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, again, you're a college kid and you're like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah. So you married Monica.
So I've watched
your spice rack.
I've watched every episode at least 3 times.
Yes.
And my wife is literally Monica Geller. She's got the small vacuum to clean the big vacuum after she vacuums.
That's fantastic.
So our house doesn't look anything like a ranch house at all.
Yeah.
It looks like it should be right in the middle of a nice city.
Oh,
it's
that's
because of how
wonderful.
clean it's kept.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So that's her. But so we'll probably end up with roll-em-out shelves everywhere.
Yeah. What is the pain point in your kitchen that you're looking to solve? What's the thing?
We don't have a big kitchen. That's the biggest pain point. We did
Yeah,
not build
that's
this
gotta
house.
be.
We bought this house.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah,
we
that's-
like
it
the
happens.
land.
Yeah.
So we bought the house, and we live on a little ranch out in Elizabeth, but we did not have a big kitchen.
Oh, that's
so
tough.
things are stacked on stacked
Yeah,
on
storage
stacked on
and
stacked,
things has
and
got to be an issue. You gotta
That's
tell-
the pain point. my
Oh,
friend.
okay. When World Mount Schultz comes out and talks to you, come back and we're gonna check in and
Yes.
on what are the things they
excited.
offered, because everybody has a problem inside of their kitchen and we're gonna solve it.
What's
Is it-
yours? Snakes?
No, well, I wish.
Yeah.
Outside of, as we talked about yesterday, outside of the frozen mice in the freezer, which is always a discussion point when I leave them exposed.
That
and
was
the-
on Twitter yesterday, by the way.
Yes. The other pain point is we have this one shelf that there was a slight leak. Not shelf, but it's cabinet. There's a slight leak under our sink a little while ago, and in order for the plumber to get back there to do the stuff that he needed to, we needed to remove the shelf out, and I couldn't put the shelf back in. So I need to. I can. I haven't taken the time to build the shelf to put in there, but unfortunately, it has become a very large, very tall black hole of the pots and the pans and the dishes. Just like the things like muffin pans and baking dishes and the colander, and both of our crock pots are in there. The air fryer, the Instapot is all in there. So if you get more, it's okay. It's almost as if you are a paleontologist or a geologist. And if you go beyond the surface in that and you get further deep into the layers, things fall down and lots of noise happens and people are wondering if you're injured. So that's the pain point. We have this one cabinet that is just a throwaway area where anything that doesn't fit anywhere else goes there, and then you can't find it when you need it.
Here's a funny text
Yeah.
message just back to the previous conversation. After hockey practices, my 16-year-old identifies as a smelly cat. Pulls in friends too.
No way.
Smelly
that is fantastic.
cat.
And friends. Smelly cat. That was fantastic.
Speaking of pain in the Front Range, Colorado's Front Range remains a magnet for hail and wind damage, and also ranks
Crazy.
high for the highest solar roof installations.
That is crazy. I've been thinking about solar roof. If it wasn't such an outlay up front as far as me to get the benefits on the back end, I'd do it because we face south. I mean, we are perfect for it, but it is the outlay at the beginning. And and people talk about it. As much of a proponent of green energy as I am unconvinced that the solar cells we have on top of our houses are where they need to be at this time. I am not a huge fan of Elon Musk, but his idea of the solar shingles and where he's going for that makes all the sense in the world. And so I will tip my cap to him on that one, that he is chasing. There are times he chases absolutely the right technology. Some of his functionality and other things are a little off, but he's absolutely right on that one. And so, I'm
So here's a question I have for our callers. Feel free to give us a call, 303-696-1971. With this big storm coming, Denver Post article here, Colorado's Front Range remains a magnet for hail and also ranks super high for solar roof installations. Adding to the damages suffered, was it a good decision to put on the solar panels on top of your roof? Or has it just been something you've had to deal with all that hail damage coming as well?
I'm curious, have you saved money? That's the thing for me is
Did you save
what's
money?
it look like? Because I know people that have the solar panels and they tell me that, they're feeding energy back into the grid. I'm like, wow. So they're paying for themselves and they're like, not yet. It's always that pause beforehand.
303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Jeff and Bill show 9:51 on this Tuesday, March 12th. It's going to be a nice day today, 64 degrees, sunny and windy. Snow showers developing tomorrow, only a high of 47, then heavy snow Wednesday night into Thursday, and even morning snow on Friday. So Denver Post reporting that at least a foot in the city of Denver.
Ooh, think we're going to get a snow day? What do you think? Over, under? If you
We
had to
don't
bet.
get snow days here, do we?
Oh, yeah. Well, not us. I'm sorry,
gonna
schools.
say,
Yeah.
kids, yeah.
Us, no. Radio is it a day that ends in Y? You're on the air.
That's exactly right.
Basically, I actually during one of the major snowstorms had to stay downtown in a hotel room for a couple of days because I couldn't get home, and so they needed the radio station.
Was
on
it
the
that
air.
one in October of 1998? I turned 16 that weekend, and it was the one where they were getting people with snowmobiles to pick up Denver Broncos.
Yeah, no,
and drive them to the airport.
I was actually at that point. I was living downtown at that point. Was I? Yeah, and I could get in from there. It would have been one early 2000s. Would have been. I can't remember the exact year, but it was in there. That was another one stuck, and that was one where I was stuck downtown, and our firstborn. My wife was at home. Oh, no, wait, it was the 91. That was another one. That was the 98 one because that would be no, it wasn't 98 because he was 99. So it'd be 2001, 2002. She was at home with him and got snowed in, and neighbors came over just to dig so she could get out the front door.
Oh, nice.
Kind of a thing.
Those
So
are good neighbors.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those neighbors are. In fact, we are still friends with them. And
So-
they were behind us, and they moved years ago. We're still friends.
Things have changed with regards to snow days.
Oh,
So
yes,
one, our
yes.
kids will not have to sit there and stare at the bottom of a TV screen hoping that their school goes across, right?
No.
Everyone gets notified.
They really should do
or
that.
listen to the radio in order to try to catch that school go by real quick.
You
know,
remember
with
that
the
though?
hopes.
Because I mean, it was like
very
the
joyful.
alphabet. You know, you're like, oh my goodness, I need the B's, and it's already
Right.
the D's, and
Yeah, I
I'm
would
here
have to
for
wait
another
through the whole
5 minutes.
thing.
Oh, that was a
Do
lesson
I
in
stay or
patience.
do I go?
Yes, it was a lesson, and you'd always check the other TV stations to wonder where they were in the alphabet because you were trying to get to the TV station that was closest to the alphabet,
Right.
that was closest to your.
Right.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And now I never had any of this, but there's like all this superstitious little activities that kids do to try
Yeah.
to force a snow day.
Me
They
either,
will
yeah.
flush ice cubes down the toilet.
Yeah, which is
They will
normally
put-
better than the sibling. That, sometimes I try that.
Or
Like,
the
I'm done
fish.
with you. Yes.
Or anything like that. Or they'll put a spoon in the freezer.
Yeah, seen that too. I'm like,
Have you seen?
yeah.
Did you?
But
I
my
never
kids
did
not.
that growing
No,
up. I didn't know anything
No.
about that.
No, not at all. It's because the reason is when you and I were growing up, you didn't have snow days unless it was over your head.
Yes, that's exactly right. I
Yes.
went through all of elementary school, middle school. It was like one snow day in high school.
Yeah, like none of them. We didn't do snow days. Now, here's the reason, and it really isn't because, well, in part it's because we become soft, but that's not the core reason, in my opinion,
Soft
why we
men
have it.
bring
Yeah.
bad times.
No, the issue being that we're stupid. And here's the reason. Our kids, when they walk out of the house, and you've seen this, they do not dress for the weather.
No.
Our kids are idiots.
Especially middle school boys.
Oh, exactly. And that's the problem. Because in those snowstorms, you're gonna get some middle school boy who's gonna be out there in a t-shirt and shorts, and he's gonna get frostbite, and his parents are gonna try to sue the school district. That's the reason we have so many snow days. They won't say it publicly, but that's what I'm convinced of. Because our kids are idiots sometimes. This is why you get them. This is why you have a cold day. We never have a cold
Right.
day. They have cold days now. It's too cold because again, our kids
It's
are
all
stupid.
part of the bigger conspiracy to make weak men, which
Yeah.
then brings about
And again,
bigger
I'm
governments.
saying if there was a kid that in middle school, and he's the kid that comes back after the snowstorm and has only 3 fingers on one hand because he went outside without the gloves and he's missing a couple of fingies, there's a lesson there. It's learning. This is a
Yes.
process, people. Yeah. I'm just saying.
Text message 2809. 2003 was a big one. I was stuck at home for 3 days.
Probably
I was
that was
living
it
in
then.
California in 2003, so I wouldn't have known.
Oh, well, I hate you now. 'Cause
Yeah.
I remember
lived
that
in
snowstorm.
Santa
It was
Barbara,
2003.
California.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
I was downtown for quite a while. Although we were on the 17th floor. That was nice in the hotel. It was a really nice hotel because a lot of the places were done. It was like a 2-room suite. It was great.
So if it snows this Thursday, they'll put us up at a nearby hotel on the 17th floor. It'd be great.
No, we have the KNUS tent. You and I underneath the overpass over here. You know how it is.
Hey, it's been great to be with you all. Thank you so much for the calls and texts. Wonderful show. Charlie Kirk is next. You've been listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.